Think we're live, maybe? As usual, it's like last 30 seconds I realized, oh my gosh, I don't even have my reference photo up. Leave it to me to pull something like that. Scoot this over a bit. So I'm gonna make sure audio is coming through. I think we're good. I think I've got everything where I need to be. I'm watching. I just fed the new baby dart frog, so I want to see them. I'm hoping they hop out where I'm looking, so you'll probably see me looking over there constantly through the stream because I'm a professional. Let's see. Still no news on if audio and everything is okay on your guys' end. I'll drink coffee while I wait. Let's see. So this flamingo, it's funny, when I came up with the design, I'm on a big, 27-inch monitor, and it looks big. Like, oh, I'm going to get all this little detail. And when I drew it out, I was like, oh, he's tiny. This is going to be a bit of a challenge to try to get the little detail in this. So, okay, Joseph says, audio's live, video's live. Thank you. I noticed you didn't ask me if I was recording. What if I needed to and you didn't remind me? I'm kidding. Paul said, I'm working on a portrait with oil over acrylic. Can I just make the entire painting 90% acrylic with color corrections with oil? How will I do it properly? Look at Text Basics and Witten. Yes, you absolutely can. And then when you varnish it, I'll have it over here. You're going to use Gambar to varnish it, and because you can use that over oil or acrylic. So whether it goes on top of an acrylic area or an oil area, you're totally fine. So yes, you absolutely can do that. Let's see. Angelique said, audio seems good. Okay, good. Yay. Okay. So today I'm going to be watching my phone, so I apologize for that level of unprofessional. I contacted the place Josh's Frogs, where I get my frogs from. One of the babies, he seems to be having some struggles. So I'll not go over the gory details. I mean, I fixed the gory details because I know how to do that, but it's, I just want to I contacted them like, have you had any of your other babies have bacterial infections or parasites I should be aware of? So I'm waiting to hear back on that email in case I have to respond right away. Since it's the weekend, coming up to the weekend, I will be extra unprofessional today, checking my emails. Okay. Gypsy Heart said, hey, Lisa, looking forward to this one today. Hope you had it. Why am I suddenly coughing? I'm having allergy issues. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I spent the day taking a million screenshots in Edenweld, and wow, because it's breathtaking. I have not even logged in since the new expansion came out. I was going to do it yesterday. I actually took yesterday off, kind of. Well, it wasn't really work, but I got to photograph my neighbor's dog. I'll have to tell you that story. But I took the day off thinking, I'm going to play WoW. I didn't even get a chance to. I mostly slept. Like, I just caught up on some much, much needed sleep. So, yeah. Beth said, hi, I can't stay long for this one. Have a lovely live stream. Thank you. And hi, thanks for stopping in and saying hi. So while I get my pencil sharpened, I'll tell you the funniest story. So my neighbor is having her first baby, and she is over the top excited. They had trouble getting pregnant in the first place. So, I mean, it's been an ongoing thing, stresses for her. And so she was over the top excited to do her baby gender reveal. She had the doctor email me the results so she wouldn't know. And then I was to take the canisters and choose, boy or girl, and put them back on her porch. So then they were doing a Thanksgiving thing, and they could, find out then with their best friends. So anyway, she wakes up in the morning to wrestling. She's got a lab poodle mix that is a bit of a nightmare with, he's eaten 2 couches. There's not much this dog has not eaten at this point. He's eaten the carpet. He's eaten everything. So she wakes up to noise and panics, realizing she left that on the countertop, and he'll randomly get on the countertop. She figured, hey, this isn't, a food item, so she didn't need to be super worried about it. Arlo thought otherwise. So this large black dog, she woke up with blue all over. So she knows now she's having a boy. The dog let her know. So she didn't get the fun photos and such for the baby or the gender reveal. So she had me come over with my good camera and get photos of Arlo running around with, gnawing on the canister, chewing on it. It was so much fun. It is the most unique, it's so much better than if it was a normal gender reveal that everyone does. So it was hilarious, but I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be the thing that makes her finally kill that dog. No, she initially was like, oh my gosh, but realized quickly, hey, this makes our reveal more unique. I mean, the photos came out so good. So yeah, kind of a funny story. I don't remember how I got started on that. Oh, because that's what I was doing yesterday, editing. I spent 2 hours, 3 hours editing those photos. So yeah, that was my fun thing for yesterday. I hope everyone else's Thanksgiving was fun. It was nice to not work. I was going to edit a video and I ended up like, no, I'm just going to edit those photos. I'm going to count it as a day off. And it was so nice to just, first day off, like full day off I've had that I can remember. I did no work, besides photos, but that wasn't really work. And to just sleep. Like I took a 2-hour nap. I usually nap for about an hour. I took a 2-hour nap. That was pretty amazing. Shopping, I did my annual every year Lantern in Red. It's the company that I get, I don't know if they show very well, but these are my nail stamps, my Christmas ones. But I do nail stamping is how I paint my nails. I do my own there. And so every year they have a big, huge Black Friday sale. So I wait until like midnight. I have everything in my cart ready to hit as soon as it goes. So I did that. It's kind of turned into a bit of a tradition for me. I'm pulling out pencils. I'll tell you what I've got in a moment. Purples and pinks, orange, and black. So just kind of grabbing a selection of those for this. But what else did I buy? Oh, like fun things that aren't so fun, like the face lotion, which is so stupidly expensive. So whenever I know there's going to be a sale, I try to get, a little extra then to save my money later on, or versus waiting till later on and having to pay full price. So I got that. I don't think, was that it for my Black Friday shopping? I think that was it. So that was my day. It was fun. And I drank wine. Also fun. Let's see. Oops. There we go. Got that one. Princess Beach said, how would you price a 9x12 colored pencil portrait? Prince. Trying to figure out a system, but it's been struggling. Prince. I mean, a portrait of Prince, like people don't usually want prints of a portrait. So I'm not sure on that. I mean, I would price it the same as you price anything else, except it's kind of weird in that if it's Prince, like a portrait, like somebody's face, people probably aren't going to buy. I mean, they might if it's something that invokes some sort of emotion and is very interesting. But if it's a normal, like people standing there smiling at the camera, no one's probably going to want prints of that. Maybe the family themselves. So, and it's like anything else though with pricing. I can't really tell you. I'm just sitting here sharpening my pencil, so I'm not just ignoring, not getting ready. You'd think I could do this beforehand, but I never do. So anyway, there's no way for me to say for certain what you should price them as. Certainly less than your originals. And it depends, I think, on how much you're paying on the prints. The quality of the prints, where you're getting them from, that's all going to have to factor in. So you want at least a bit of a markup on that to where it's worth it to you. But I don't have like a set percentage that I think you should mark up prints for. It really it depends on the quality. It depends on the demand. It depends on a lot of things there. So I really can't answer that, unfortunately. Hannah said, hi, thank you so much for your wisdom. Do you suggest staying at the same size of the book for creating an art book? I would go larger and shrink down to the book. Everything looks really good when you're larger and shrink down. Don't go smaller and try to enlarge though. That won't look good. I would go at least a little bit bigger. Let me make sure that there is nothing here that I need to. I got an email. Make sure it's not Josh's Frogs. It is not. This is going to be the live stream for today, or me checking my phone. I would not where was I rambling about? I would just don't go smaller and try to blow it up. It won't look good. Go larger. You can get all your detail. You can get those nice clean edges. And when you shrink everything down, it's going to look good. That is what I would do. So at least the size of the book, but ideally I would go a bit bigger. That way, let's say one of those pages in that book, you're like, wow, I'd kind of like to make prints or a poster of this one. If you had made it bigger in the first place, that's going to make it a lot easier. You never want to make prints of things larger than what the original is. It just, even if you get a large file. So this is what a lot of people think. Okay, I've done something, let's say it's an 8x10, or I think this one's like a 9x12. Let's say you're going to do that. If you enlarge it, yes, your file size, you can take a really good photograph. My sister's giving me updates. She has COVID. She's in California. She's been required. I'm requiring her to give me daily updates. She's doing good. But anyway, that's my risk notifications. Moving on. What was I rambling about? So let's say I wanted to make prints of this. I'm only going to make prints as big as this is. Even if I use my good camera, and I've got this, tons of megapixels, and technically, yeah, it's big enough I can blow up. It looks bad when you blow this up because you start seeing like The edges aren't quite as smooth. When it's small, it looks perfect. But when you get it bigger, it just doesn't look as good. So even if you get use your good camera and get this huge file, huge resolution file, it just doesn't look good when you make the artwork look bigger than what the original was. You can go a little bit bigger safely, not much. So just as a general rule there. Oh, come back. That just scrolled too far. There we go. Julia said, is it okay to use pure white acrylic for priming canvas? No, use a gesso. Gesso, it's going to grip to the canvas better and allow the paint to grip to it. White acrylic is not the same as gesso. Use a gesso is what I would recommend. That's like an actual primer. Kimberly said, hi Lisa, what intermediate DSLR to photograph decent with paintings? I started out with a Nikon D3500 or something like that, I think was my first one, and that one was fine. But I've now upgraded to, I've got a Canon 6D. Nick can tell you what lenses I have. He has the same thing I do. But that one has been amazing. But that's, you know, it's a little bit more advanced. It's not your beginner. But my Nikon, it's like a D3500 or 5500, one of those. Like that was definitely enough for photographing the artwork itself. Now, when I got to where I wanted to take better photos, reference photos of wildlife and stuff where I needed to, you know, I needed better lenses, then I did upgrade to the Canon 6D, but that little Nikon was good. You're pretty safe with Canon or Nikon. They're both really good brands. Get caught up on some of these questions. Gypsy Heart said, awesome way to spend the day though, sleeping and silly pups. Ardenweald is the Fey area and all the colors and creatures. I'm super excited to paint all the things in that zone. Oh, that sounds, I have goosebumps. I want to go look at it now. That sounds like something I like. Alliance or Horde? Because I'm debating on if I want to level my Horde Blood Elf Priest. She's holy. I always level holy. Or if I want to level my Alliance, I'm going to have a Horde and an Alliance Warlock, but my Alliance Warlock was the main one I've been playing, collecting pets and mounts on before, because she has a bee mount. You can't have it on Horde. But I was tempted to level her first, which would be a first for me, because my main has always been that priest. Anyway, let's see. Phyllis said, favorite wine. Red wines, I prefer usually like anything that's kind of a spicy dry. I don't like sweet. Spicy and as dry as possible is what I like. I don't have like a favorite brand. Usually I go fairly cheap. Like my taste is not distinguished enough that I'm willing to spend more than $20 on a bottle. And even that's pushing it. Usually it's more like $10 for a bottle. But lately I've been getting these little individual bottles because I don't drink it enough anymore to, like I used to drink 1 to 2 glasses a night. And since the diet, I didn't want to spend my calories on wine. I would rather spend that on food. So I was just not drinking it fast enough and too much of it was getting wasted. So I started getting these little red wine like tiny little individual like glass servings. So, and that is, I don't even remember which one it is. Hold on, I have to text my neighbor and ask her to let her boys in. 1 second. Because that is going to drive me crazy to try to work through. Okay, that is a very loud bark. And I listened to him barking all day yesterday. I'm over it. Let's see. Middle said, what brand of gouache is good without breaking the bank? I have no idea. I'm not an expert on gouache. I can't give you any advice there. I'm actually just going to get my first set of watercolors. Schmick? I don't know. My friend who watercolors, she told me that's what to get. So I'm planning on ordering some of that. I was looking to see if there were any good Black Friday sales. So gouache is just your opaque watercolor. So that is coming soon, or I'll have to order it, but I can't tell you, why did I just answer that? I could have made it so much simple and say, I don't know, instead I've got to give you a whole story about something that matters not at all. Princess Peach said, referring to my print question, I usually do realistic portraits of celebrities in nature. You can't make prints of celebrities. That you don't own the copyright of that. If you took the photo and you got the permission and all that stuff, yeah. Otherwise, no, don't do it. You're violating copyright and can get yourself into legal trouble. And I know what you're thinking, but tons of people do it. Tons of people do a lot of things that I'm not going to risk myself. You know, tons of people speed. I don't want a ticket. drive, so it's an easy analogy for me. But you know, there are a lot of things people do and get away with it. That doesn't mean that you will. Do you really want to risk that? Like, it's not worth it. I know so many people are like, it's fine, everybody does it. Everybody does a lot of things. And again, I'm not willing to risk my name, my career, potential lawsuits. Celebrities, you just are not legally allowed to do. Nature and animals are different though. And again, I can't give you a definite thing. What you may want to do, look online. This is kind of my suggestion for art too, and you're just trying to figure out a base price. Look online for somebody who's producing similar work to you, has a similar following to you, and that matters because that's going to determine, I cannot talk, the demand of your work. But see what they're selling theirs for. You can check eBay, you can check Etsy. Those are good places to start, but see how much other people are charging for their prints. Again, about the same skill level, about the same amount of following. So you get an idea of like what kind of demand you'll have, and that can be helpful on determining a price. Let's see. Whoop, that scrolled too far. Whoops, where are we? Kimberly said, Lisa, please explain further the benefit of glazing. Is there a difference, say, in the look with glaze painting over alla prima based from your experience? Yes, glazed paintings are going to have a ton more depth. I can go ahead and start layering this in here. I'm going to start with red violet. That'll work. Glazed paintings are going to have a ton more depth, and alla prima is going to be more flat. That does not mean alla prima can't be, alla prima can't be beautiful, but it's not the same. So because of glazing, you've got layer on top of layer on top of translucent layer, and the light refracts around in each of those layers. And so it's not something that you really capture in photograph, but in person, it's subtle. Like if somebody who doesn't know a lot about art looks at it, they're just going to be like, wow, that looks really good, but they're not going to know why. They're not like seeing, oh, I see the layers. But it does make a difference in the depth of the piece. So yeah, it is a pretty, to me, I can tell a pretty big difference. Now, again, that doesn't mean one's better than the other. One just has a bit more depth than the other. And I think you have a bit more freedom. Like, I don't know. I feel like I can make more adjustments and control a little bit more easier, but that may just be me. Let's see. DJ said, good afternoon. Hey, how are you doing? I'm doing good. Thank you. Petty Picasso said, big global hug to your sister. I'll tell her you said so. Gypsy Heart said, my main horde Resto Druid. I level Resto too, but I play Alliance too. With this X pack, you don't have horde zones versus Alliance zones that I have found so far, which is nice. Oh, nice. Whoop, that scrolled too far. Hello, Shiny Seed. Lisa, the first thing I saw is your zombie snail drawing. The leaves totally look like angry, hungry piranha with a mouth open. Can you see it? Yeah, I kind of can. And then I won't be able to unsee it. I mean, I have to kind of like, but yeah, I see what you're seeing. I usually don't when people see random stuff in the art. That's funny. Hannah said, I hope your sister has a speedy recovery. She certainly is not alone. I'll say a prayer for her tonight. Thank you. She'll like to hear that everybody is wishing her well and praying for her. Nakiska, that's a cool name, said, this piece inspired me to start a collage of different fruits using Inktense pencils. I'm in my gray sketchbook. It's actually turning out really cute, so thank you. That is awesome. Please tag me in it. I want to see. Reno said, hello from South Africa. Hello from Texas. Hello, how's your day going? It is going good. For me, it's kind of just starting. My day starts with just getting, actually, let's erase this a little bit where the flower was so I can lift some of that. Let's see. There we go. And that eraser that I'm using, it is a Faber-Castell, there we go, Perfection eraser. It's got a nice little brush in the end for getting your shavings because you don't want to use your hand like we all, I think, have a tendency to do. There we go, again. But it's like an ink eraser, so it erases a bit better. You don't want to dig in and push really hard, but this is going to give you better results than what you, may as well get on the top of this head while I'm over here, than what you would get with a normal eraser. Again, don't push too hard. We're not trying to screw up the paper, but I can lift enough of the color that when I go on top of my other colors, it'll show up better. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to, let's see, kind of map out where my general lights and darks are going to be. And I'm using mostly a combination today of my Derwent Light Fast and my Polychromos. And the reason for that is both of these brands they have a harder lead, which allows me to sharpen them to a finer point. And this is this is tiny, tiny detail. I need that point, that fine point. So I'm just going to get a block of color in here with my magenta. There it goes. I keep calling Cletus Rib. Rib was my years and years and years, like back in 95, I got a Australian white tree frog, and his name was Rib. His last name was Bit. I keep calling Cletus for some reason Rib lately. So if I say Rib, you'll know what I'm talking about. I really mean Cletus. But anyway, he was chirping. So I'm just lightly going over this. I'm going to do several layers before I blend with the OMS. I'm going to blend right over that flower. Even if a little bit of that flower shows through underneath what I'm going to put on top, it doesn't matter. It's going to mostly be covered. I'll just work it into that design. I'm going to put a shadow of purple just to keep my place for when I blend out here. Yeah, if you have a question or a comment, make sure to do the Lachri fine art. If it does, it highlights my name in orange, and if it doesn't do that, I just don't see your comment or question. It's not that I'm trying to ignore you, but that's what'll happen. Hatred said, hello from the same state. What area are you in? I'm up in North Texas myself. Gail said, I'm working, which is, some of you may be like, really? What, like, does North Texas, South Texas matter? People don't realize, especially if you're not in the US, from the US, that Texas is bigger than most countries. Like Texas itself is huge. So it's an all-day drive just to go from North Texas to any of the southern portions. It's huge. So whereas like you have a lot of the smaller states where, an hour you can travel through several states at the same time. Yeah, Texas is like, it's crazy how big this state is. I'm going to, actually, we'll start with orange. I'm trying to think if I want a lighter orange. My pencils are all over the place because I did not remember to put them away after last week. Ooh, nope. I caught it and then I dropped it. I'm actually thinking I may need something a bit more translucent here. Let me see, or not translucent, a bit more opaque. Wrong word. It's the complete opposite word that I wanted. Let's go with this. So the reason that I'm going with, I'm going to switch over to a Caran d'Ache Luminance really quick, just because I want this orange to stand out a bit more on top of the gray, being that it's a lighter color. And your opaque colors are going to be your more higher wax content pencils. The thing is with these, higher wax content means that it's a softer lead or a more brittle lead. So it can be more prone to breaking. So if you have if you need a super, super sharp point, it's a little bit more difficult because the lead is more likely to break. But in this case, I want that orange to be really opaque. And so that's where the wax base is a better idea. Now, it's not that this is going to be the way the color is going to stay. It's actually got to be more of a reddish tone, but I want that as my base and then the red's on top. So this covers that gray. It'll look good eventually. And also, I can do this for the eye now, just to get that. Please stand. Gail said, I'm working on a piece on Fabriano with Liquitex Basics, and I'm wanting to add details with colored pencil. I have Polychromos and Luminance. Which do you recommend I use? So it depends on how much you've watered down the Liquitex Basics. The Liquitex Basics are, it's acrylics, it's plastic, it's going to dry. So unless you watered them down to the point where they were like watercolor, you don't have a lot of tooth and there's not a lot for the pencil to stick to. So you're gonna have to play with that. Probably your wax base will stick better, but play with it on a sample piece because I don't work that way. I don't work on paper with acrylics, so I can't give you a ton of advice other than just knowing that acrylics, depending on how thick you've got it on there, the thicker the paint is with, if you didn't use a ton of water on it, the more slick it's going to be. It's plastic. And so there's just not as much for that pencil. So it's not going to work that well for you. So you'll have to do a bit of testing. Princess Peach said, you guys have some unique questions today. This is fun. Usually we get the same questions again and again. You guys have some different ones for me today. Princess Peach said, how did you get over the nerves of speaking on live streams, podcasts, YouTube videos? I have social anxiety and having a hard time pushing myself towards to put my art in the world. So I initially, the live streams were never a problem for me. What was, maybe a little bit, maybe I used to get a little nervous just because it was like, you never know what computer problem you're going to have and you're going to have to try to fix it and it's just going to be drama. But for me, I had massive social anxiety. I had just anxiety in general. I was super shy when I was a teenager. And the thing that got me over just being so shy was my mom made me get a job. I worked at a pizza place and they mainly had me on the cash register. So turns out if you can count money really well or you count really well, you end up with some of the crappiest hours. So every Friday and Saturday night, which was the busiest, I had to work, where all my friends were like going to football games and stuff. Not me. I had to work. But anyway, being forced to talk to the public made a huge difference. So when you have anxiety about something, repeat exposure, doing it again and again and again makes a difference. And for me, when it comes to the video side of it, just recording videos, sitting in front of a camera and talking, I couldn't talk naturally. Like it just felt weird. I came across very, very stiff, not how I am in person at all. Now, by this point, I was used to, like, I perform on stage. I play violin. I've played in bands. Being on stage is no big deal to me. Being in front of a crowd, that's no big deal to me. But for some reason, when I was in a room on my own, I had a harder time with the recorded videos than I did the live streaming. I was so stiff. And the way that I got over that, more videos. So I was making I used to do like 5 edited videos a week and 4 or 5, something like that. And the more I did, the more comfortable I got. So it's going to be the same thing with live streams. You're going to be really awkward at first. The more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get. And it's going to get easier and easier. But you have to force yourself to do it even when you're uncomfortable. Too many times, I think people, when they have different anxiety issues, they will use that as a reason to never work on them. They just use, it's like, I have this problem. Well, that's life. I guess I can't do that thing now. You can. You have to force yourself to do it. It may be uncomfortable. That's a part of growth, but you can absolutely force yourself to it. Like I hear all the time from people, oh, I can't do videos. I have social anxiety. I can't do that. You know what? You can keep using that as an excuse not to do things. I mean, if that's what you want for life, that's fine. But it doesn't have to be that way. And that's your choice. People let themselves be ruled by their anxiety. And I get it. Trust me, I get it. But I'm not saying you don't have the anxiety. I'm saying don't let it rule you. Don't let it make the decision for you. Force yourself to do something that's uncomfortable. And like, even with me, I don't like leaving the house. Actually, just the thought when I have to go and do stuff, like my stomach turns, I'm like, I don't like to do it. The less I do it, the worse that gets. The more I have to force myself to go out, go be around people, and I can fake, like people, when I'm around people in person, they don't realize I have that issue because I fake it. But you do it. You do it regularly. The more you do it, the easier it gets. So sitting and hiding and just not just don't use it as an excuse long term. And I say excuse, I'm not saying that you don't have social anxiety. You absolutely, obviously, you know what you have. Just don't let that control you. It doesn't need to control you. And you'll be awkward at first on video. Trust me, I was. God, go back and look at my videos from 2012, 2013. They were painful to watch. I looked like I was in physical pain. But you just have to make yourself do it. You need coffee. Let's see. Oh, that just jumped too far. There we go. Gypsy Heart said, we moved from Texas 4 years ago to Atlanta to be closer to my side of the family. We lived in McKinney near his side of the family that lived in Frisco and Little Elm. Oh, how funny. We lived in Frisco for a while. That's where my in-laws live. When we lived with them, that's where we were. So you were in this area. I like it here a lot. I mean, I'm not in Frisco now, but close enough. I'm trying to get my parents out of California into here. It's better in Texas. The people are way nicer. Josh said, I have Prisma Premier. What should I focus on with these pencils to improve the coloring in general? Looking forward to getting better colors. With Prismas, don't sharpen them to as fine of a point. I have a long point on these. Use the type of sharpener that doesn't go quite as, it's a little bit more extreme on the point, so it's not as long, the shorter point, because they do break a lot. With those, you've got to plan your work a bit more. You're not going to get quite as many layers before you start getting wax bloom, and it doesn't want to take as much. So just things to keep in mind there. I really like OMS. Well, I like OMS with all colored pencils, but with Prismacolors, that was great. And that actually helped me a lot with the wax bloom issues. But working in light layers works very, very well. I mean, that's true with most brands, but definitely with the Prismas too. Okay, I'm going to blend that out and then we'll let that dry. I lost my OMS. There it is. I had a tiny little brush over here earlier. Do I still have it? There we go. These will work. So when I add the OMS on this, because I'm working on this grayish paper, it's going to make the area I worked in get suddenly a lot darker. It's not, don't panic if that happens if you were working on toned paper, even like blue paper, whatever, it's going to look darker, but it'll dry back light like it was. Now the other thing is I want to make sure I don't want blue on this brush. I want to make sure that I do not push or have too much OMS on the brush, especially on those edges. Like right now that's a lot. Because this will bleed out and leave an oil type stain on the paper, which I definitely do not want. Because I want to leave see right there, I wasn't careful enough. This brush is a little frayed. I need to switch to a smaller one. I'm gonna regret it if I don't. There we go. Now for me, worst case scenario, if an area does bleed out a little bit and I end up with an oil stain where I don't want it, I'm just going to continue my collage kind of behind that. Wait, stop scratching. Wait, you're gonna hurt yourself. Sorry for those, I just yelled in your ear. He gets a little crazy with the scratch in his face and I don't want him cutting it, or like he just won't stop. Let's see. This needs to dry now. Starving Artist Collective said, Western Australia is one state and 4 times bigger than Texas. 4 days. Yeah, Australia, everything's big there. You put us to shame size-wise there. 4 days to get from top to bottom, also bigger than all Western Europe and 12 times bigger than UK. Big, hot, and dry. Nick said, let's see. I can't say that name. Said, hi, I love your Inktense videos. Do you think Inktense is better than Ecoline inks? I don't know what those are. Started thinking of buying inks. I have no idea what those are, so I can't give you any advice there. I am sorry. Did you get the 1 day snow when the temperature dropped in Texas? No, I don't think we got any snow. Or if we did, I slept through it. I don't think. Did we have any snow? I don't remember now. Was that this year or last year? Maybe we did get like for a little short time. I know we got the frost, but I don't remember. I don't remember. That's how bad my memory is. And that was not that long ago. Thea said, hi, from South Africa. I've been watching your channel since 2017 and really respect your growth as an artist. Thanks for all your advice. Oh, thank you. Gypsy Heart said, I cannot for the life of me remember if you said polys and powder blender work on pastel mat or not. No, powder blender is not going to work on pastel mat. You need a non-absorbent surface, so just sanded paper. Sanded paper, or if you take like regular paper and I've airbrushed gesso over it, that's your other option. Which honestly is just too much work in my opinion, so I just use sanded paper now. They both work, it just one is way more work. Leisha said, does OMS ruin your brush? Trying the flamingo in colored pencil, first time with this medium in 20 years. It does not ruin the brush. What starts to fray, like you can see this brush is frayed, is from me taking it and scrubbing it back and forth really harshly on the paper. That's what damages it, but the brush itself, OMS will not hurt. Jason said, Lisa, if I use Inktense as a background, then polychromos, does it affect the color? I'm not sure what you mean by does it affect it? How? The polychromos doesn't stick. So what I can tell you with Inktense, colored pencil doesn't stick as well on top of Inktense as it does watercolor. So if I'm going to do a mixed media, I'm probably going to use watercolor as a base and then colored pencils on top of that. But I don't know on that because I'm not sure what you mean. How does it affect the color? I guess it would depend on which. I mean, anytime you have a color underneath another color, the bottom color affects the color on top. I mean, no matter what medium you're using. Carol Ann said, Austin didn't get any snow. I don't know about North Texas though. We did, but I don't remember if it hit here. If it did, it was such an uneventful thing. I don't really remember. I don't remember if it stuck at all. Vaguely. I don't know. I think I slept through it. Where I live, we had snow, and yes, it did happen this year. Oh, I know some areas up here did. I just don't remember if my house did. Princess Beach said, hashtag bad memory club. Yes. Like, so much has happened this year. I'm just like, I don't remember. I don't know. Okay, I'm just waiting for this to dry. Normally I work on another area, but I'm kind of really just focusing on the beak and the eye today. I guess I could use a pencil and start mapping out where the white is going to go, or the lighter areas, while we wait for that to dry. So just kind of I'm using my polychromos. It's not super sharp. I'm just looking at my reference photo, getting a general idea of the direction of those feathers. I'm going to blend this out so it's not a big deal if it's perfect one way or another here. I'm just kind of killing time since I need this to dry before I can go over it. So when you are using OMS, you do not want to put your pencils back on top of an area that's wet. The paper it's essentially vulnerable at that time. It's like squishy and you could damage and scratch it really easy. Plus then the pencil doesn't stick well to it. It's not a good plan. Nick said, for some reason today I can hear the frogs. Yay! Isn't he? Which is funny because he doesn't sound as loud to me today. Yet. I'm sure he'll raise in volume. He actually, so I have a tiny little dirt frog. He's like size my thumbnail. He's, and I got him 3 little buddies that are in that tank. He's over here while they grow up. But he hides. He teleports away. And the other night when I came up, he usually hides whenever he sees me and waits till I leave, and then he starts back up chirping like that. But the other night he stayed out on his rock and was just chirping away, and you could see his little throat getting all like how frogs do. Oh God, he's cute. That little guy's gotten plump since the last time I really saw him. I normally just see him like fly by, so not sit still enough that I can really look at him. He is plumped up. He is a little fatty. Gypsy Heart said, yeah, I keep hearing froggy babies and makes me want one, but I have zero knowledge of them. Love that sound too. Or sound though. Nope, that's an email or text. Still waiting on the email. So I'm tempted to do a video and kind of show some of the girls' photos of the pros and cons of having frogs. Some of them are harder than others. So the red-eye tree frogs, one of the more sensitive species. And I knew that going in, and I don't know, and it sucks because they're so cute. Red-eye tree frog babies are probably the cutest. If you don't know what they are, you've seen them, I guarantee you. But if you just don't know the name, Google it. My God, are they, the babies, so as adults, they get yay big or so, but as babies, they're like so little and so cute. But the thing is, it's kind of like fish where they're just very sensitive to bacteria, to parasites, to different things that you just don't necessarily have a lot of control over. So as much as my husbandry can be absolutely perfect, they're in a quarantine tank right now. Everything is kept sterile. I'm cleaning it every single night. So it's a lot of work right now because until they're established and I know they're doing good, I don't want to put them in my vivarium and potentially contaminate that vivarium with any bacteria they may have or parasites or anything else. So it's a nightly thing of me changing out the crickets, there's a lot of work involved. And I just have to be aware, and I knew this going in. I ordered 4 of them knowing my end goal. Like, my first thought was, I want 3. And then it's like, they're really sensitive. Order a backup frog. That sounds terrible, but it's the reality when you get into some of the amphibians. They are extremely sensitive. And if all 4 make, and I do, I'm going to do my best. I really want all 4 to make it, but one of them is having issues. And so, you just have to know that may be something that you have to go through. I don't think it's worth it to everybody, and it's very hard. I mean, if I lose one, it's not as hard as like losing your dog, but it's still not everyone has the stomach for it, I guess I should say. It's not as cute as they are, and as cute as these photos that I've been posting are, it's not all like sunshine and rainbows. There is a downside. And the good thing is, conservation-wise, because some people will do, we should leave them in the wild. There are bacteria in the wild. They're losing their natural home. People are breeding. These are captive bred. They're bred in captivity. So people like me who get them and then breed them and keep that species going. It's not so, because I know this, you always get the PETA freaks in there that'll be like, you should always keep them in the wild. Well, you might want to do a little research on what's happening in the wild. So there are several bacteria actually that, God, when was that? Not that long ago, like within the last 20 years, this bacteria kind of popped up and has wiped out. There's one species that is only alive today because of people breeding them in captivity. They're gone in the wild. I forget what it was. Was it a type of dart frog? No, maybe not. I forget what kind of frog it was. But it's somewhere, I want to say it was a South American one. So, it's of value for people to have them in captivity, and especially those who are breeding them, like Josh's frogs or different, breeders. But like I said, there's that side, you've got to have the stomach, kind of like fish. I mean, something can go wrong with your water quality, and you can have a fish you've had for 10 years and are just absolutely in love with, and without any warning. It's not like a dog where you can tell, okay, they're not feeling well, I need to get them to a vet. There's not really much you can do with a fish. Luckily, I do have an exotics vet down. They're closed today. I was going to call them today. But they'll be open Monday. We'll see how the little frog does. I'm lucky in that I do have an exotics vet here. Most vets in most areas, you're kind of on your own with the internet trying to figure out oh my gosh, Itchy knows what to do with them. And so the only reason I bring that up is I feel like I keep posting these adorable photos, and I don't want to give someone the wrong impression that it's a super easy thing. There's a downside for sure. One, right now, just a lot of work because they are in quarantine, and I'm cleaning everything and keeping it very sterile in case, just to minimize the risk of a bacterial thing at this point. But a lot of money has gone into it too, like preventative stuff. I've got what is it? Vetrocycline, whatever, plus one of those. You get there. It's not a cheap thing to get into. Now, you can do it and not spend as much. Like if you are interested in frogs, look at Australian White's tree frogs, or dumpy frogs, that people will call them. That's what I had. Those guys are much hardier. They're not as sensitive to parasites and different things. That's what my first frog was. I had him for 12 years. He was awesome. And the funny thing is, I had him for 12 years. And this is back before, I got him in 95. Internet wasn't really a thing. It was just starting up. There was not much information on care. I did not take care of him properly. Like looking back, I'm like, how did this frog live through my care? I was trying. I did what I thought was best, but it wasn't. Like now I know more. And I don't even know how that guy did as well as he did, because he's hardy. There are species that are much more hardy than others. So again, the red-eye tree frogs, much more sensitive to everything. And so I'm like a nervous wreck, like, oh my gosh, I want them to be okay. The dart frogs, these guys seem to be a bit more hardy too. So that's another option for you, is to look into dart frogs. And I'm considering, seriously considering, trying to talk myself out, but I'm probably going to lose that battle. There's the Luke something. It's a dendrobrate. I can't say it. It's a long name. Look at bumblebee dart frogs. I'm considering setting up a vivarium in the living room because I have one last space that a vivarium would fit perfectly for those guys too. But there are a lot of really cool dart frogs. So as far as tree frogs, if you wanted to go with something easier, I would definitely check out White's tree frogs. They're bigger, and like I said, they're just not as sensitive to bacteria and to parasites and such. It's not that they can't get them, but they're not as prone to having issues with it. And go captive bred. Always go captive bred. Do not, don't buy from Petco and PetSmart. They don't even know where their frogs are coming from, and there are too many bacteria and too many things that are fatal to these guys. You do not want a wild-caught frog. Go captive bred, which is more ethical anyway. But you're also going to be more likely to get a healthy frog in that. But check out White's tree frogs. I'm even kind of like, oh, I want another White's tree frog, but I don't want to have frogs everywhere in my house. So anyway, there's some information. I just feel like when I post those photos, I'm only showing the happy rainbow side. And there is a very nasty photo I have right now of that poor little frog. Had a prolapse last night that I had to apply honey to help, because it wasn't going back in. It is a horrible photo, and he's fine. I mean, because I know how to take care of that, and I knew why that so that happens typically from either being constipated, which is not the case for him because I don't think he's eating, bacterial or parasite infection, neither of which should have happened from him given where he came from, but something's going on there if it keeps happening. So, and it's happened twice now. So anyway, that was not a sunshine and rainbows photo, let me tell you. So moral of that story is I post, and anytime you see YouTubers or anybody on social media that has a new pet, do some research on that. It's really sad how many people get them. And I see this I'm in one of the red-eye tree frog groups, and it's people will post things and it's your poor frog is not going to make it long. It doesn't have anything wrong with it now, just based on your care and lack of willingness to do research or put the money into it as needed. Because you get a lot of times where people will do the whole, how do I do this on a budget? You want to get plants on a budget. You want to get whatever on art supplies on a budget. That's one thing. When you get into animals, that gets, where's my black pencil? I'm missing a pencil. That gets, that's not so much of an option. I mean, there are more expensive and less expensive ways to do things, but either way, it's expensive, honestly, to do it right. Where is my black? I had it out earlier, so I know it's not, and my shoe fell off. Whatever, let's just take them both off. Okay. You should be sitting, here you are. So that was a lot of rambling about frogs, and I don't want to discourage anyone from getting into them. I just want to encourage you to do the research, because it's not as, I mean, again, kind of like having a reef tank. I have my reef tank. I had one, a 65-gallon full reef, corals, fish that I had for, God, 5-6 years. I mean, I had one tank. It was like a dog at that point. They got all excited when they saw me because they knew I was the feeding lady. But when I came home, I was gone for a couple of days for an art show. I came home and the tank had crashed while I was gone. And when I say crash, I don't mean like it fell over. I mean, the water quality, something happened in that tank to the water and it caused like a chain reaction. Everything in that tank died. Bristleworms, everything. They were just hanging out. The rocks dead. Everything died. And it's a very hard part of the hobby. So something you want to be aware of. And again, even in that case where people are like, oh, we should leave them in the wild. Yeah, but we've got people who are growing coral that are being damaged in the wild. And some people are growing them. And then the scientists are like reintroducing some of these corals in the wild. So the hobbyists can save things that are being made extinct from bad water quality in the wild. So, just things to keep in mind with our mind when it comes to those things. You've got hard parts of the hobby for sure. I think it's kind of weird. Like, I don't like the term hobby when it comes to animals, but that's what's used, so whatever. Let's see. Angel Del Mar said, what is the shelf life of acrylic paints in the tube? It depends on the paint. There's certain colors, like browns of Liquitex Basics. Those have a tendency to get this turned globby. They still work, but they get globby sooner than others. Like sometimes I bought them and they were already that way. Sometimes within a year they were that way. And then I have other of the same Liquitex Basics in other colors that I've had for 5 years, because it's not a color I use often, 6, 7, 10 years, and they're perfectly fine. So it kind of depends on the color. And even the ones that get globby, I just add more water to it. They're still usable. I haven't had any that I had to throw out or anything. But it depends on the color and it depends on the brand a bit. So there's not like a one-size-fits-all answer to that. Jason said, is there a lot of change because of layering? It's not because of layering. You have to keep in mind, colored pencils are always, they're going to be semi-translucent. That's going to be the case of most mediums that you're layering, unless you're using something that's super opaque. But anytime there's a color here, you put a color on top, this color shows through this color. So it affects this color. No matter what medium you're working in, that's going to happen. And to the extent will depend on the colors, and it will depend on how opaque this color up here is. Princess Peach said, any tips for using markers? Artzaya watercolor as an underbase for colored pencil. I do not trust any light pass ratings on Artzaya products. I don't trust that company one freaking bit. For your own fun, go for it. Have fun. Tips? Not really. They just work well. Watercolor as a base for colored pencil just does work very well. It works well for a base for almost every, it's watercolor you can do it under graphite, you can do it under charcoal, you can do it under a lot for that. So those are really good. The only thing that I would say, just watch with the Arteza. I always say Artzaya is what I always say. But anyway, watch them. That is a cheap Chinese product that is not, I do not trust one bit what they claim their light pass ratings are, because the company itself, I know from their marketing team, are sleazy. So from my experience with them, not a fan. I do not trust anything they say about really anything. So just be aware of that. Like, I wouldn't use them and sell the work, but you could use that medium and do prints of them. Totally fine there. And have fun with them. I'm not saying you can't produce really pretty things, but something to keep in mind. But as far as tips, that's really my main thing, is just be aware of that. Now, you don't want to do the watercolor markers and then your colored pencil and the watercolor markers again. Only put the watercolor markers where, like, your final, those all go first, and then your wax or oil-based pencils on top. Clark Fine Art said, he is definitely coming across much louder today. So neat. I wonder why. Interesting. Maybe because last week I finally plugged in my mic. My lavalier was just not quite clicked in all the way, because I'm a genius. I am a pro. Fine Art Ann said, hi all. Hi Lisa. Or Lachri Fine Art. Love your background mural. Gorgeous. Thank you. Whoops, that just scrolled too far. Where were we? I am definitely too far. Hold on. Scrolling back up. There we go. Hatred said, that is a very sad name, said, I'm getting Prismacolor pencils for Christmas. What kind of sketchbook do you recommend? I really like hot press watercolor paper types, but if you're going like sketchbook type, anything that's going to be like, well, something similar to a hot press watercolor paper. Don't go with a cold press because they have those in sketchbooks. That's going to be a little bit too rough. You can try some of the mixed media. Like I've got one here. This would work. Knocking things down. Oh, I don't want to ruin that. This one, Dollar and Rowny. I can't say words, but this one's a mixed media type paper. This sort of thing works well if you're looking for like sketchbook. That sort of works well. But you want smooth. You don't want so smooth like Bristol Vellum's too smooth. Do not like it at all. Some people love it. I don't. Trying to think what else, but really the mixed media ones or a hot press watercolor. I like for sketchbooks with colored pencils. Stefania said, hello from Italy. I'm a self-taught and learning a lot. Thanks to your videos. Oh, that's awesome. Jason said, Lisa, he has other frogs to talk to. You just don't interest him much, possibly. And it's funny because the other frogs are so young. They're super, super quiet. So I'm really surprised how active since they've come. He has been, now I did put a new plant in his tank, but that should have scared him more. I don't know why. He's been so much more talkative, and he's a talker anyway. He has been so much more talkative and their tank is a few feet away. I don't think he can, no, maybe he can see them. I don't know how well frogs see. I guess it would be possible for them to see each other, but since they came, he is like talking up a storm. So I don't know if he knows his future wife is in there or what. She's still a baby. Don't be a sicko. It's too early. Let's see. D. Lynn Creative Arts said, hi Lisa, I can't stay on long because I'm supposed to be cleaning. That is what I have to do tomorrow. I was wondering, what is your overall plan for this piece? Are you just adding things random or is there a plan? No, I'm just randomly adding things and then I will eventually frame it and stick it on my wall. So I guess I have an end goal of it going on probably my office wall. Although, yeah, my office will be the best place for this color-wise. So yeah, that's the plan. I'm just adding things, and that's why the flamingo ended up in. So those are my clownfish. I love grapes. I don't even eat them. I mean, they're okay. I just don't ever buy them. But I just love the colors in grapes. I love orange and magenta together. So I'm just kind of following that through. It was never intended. Oh, hold on one second. Let me make sure. Do I have anything from unknown voicemail? I don't. That's anything of interest here. I want to hear if we have a spammer that's interesting. I'm pretty sure they're just going to just make sure. I don't think Josh's Frogs they'd have to like look up my number. No, that's a California number. California, my number's still a California number, so I still get spam from California numbers. So I always know they're spam if it's not on my list. Like I know that's a spam call. But yeah, I emailed Josh's Frogs with what's going on to see if they had any suggestions for that baby, if it's something that I should worry about. I just want to feel like if I lose him, then I've done everything possible to help him, if that makes sense, even though I've researched so much. But, not a bad thing to ask for some advice. Anyway, so yeah, this is just it was only going to be a lesson on the grapes. And then I was like, why waste all this good paper? Because I love my Canson Mi-Teintes. Like that's been one of my favorites lately. So I added the flower and then I was like, well, let's just keep adding more. And it just turned into, it never was intended to even be a collage. It was never intended to be more than the grapes. And the paper, when I pulled off the tape, I wasn't being careful. I actually ripped the edge of that. So it's staying with me anyway. I'll mat it. You won't be able to see it. Let's see. Sarah Makes Art said, PETA are also against zoos, but some animals wouldn't exist if they weren't for the conservation effort of zoos. Yeah, I'm not one. There are bad zoos out there, but I am certainly not someone who's like, oh my God, end the zoos. Like I remember going to a zoo locally and it's nice that the enclosures that they have the animals in, they are nice. It's not like, we have another one closer to me, this like wildlife thing, and they're in these cages, and I'm like, that, okay, that's not natural. That's not nice and big. But like Fort Worth Zoo, the way these animals are taking, they have such huge spaces, and they're so nice. Like they set them up to look like what the animal would get to experience in the wild. And that's what I like to see anyway for animals in zoos. But somebody was standing there going, oh, that poor animal and how cruel it is. And it's like, I didn't almost swear and called her a name. We'll go with this. Which, you paid for this ticket too. Like, what? You knew they had animals in here. If you're going to sit around and go from cage to cage talking about how sad it is, and really it is, and these animals are so well taken care of. Like, the Fort Worth Zoo is amazing. Actually, Dallas Zoo, I've been, from what I've seen of Dallas, was good too. I haven't been there as much. But anyway, it was like, are you kidding me right now? Like, did you just come so you could sit and whine and whatever? So anyway, yeah, people don't realize, like, even with SeaWorld and such, I'm not saying every SeaWorld is perfect. I've only been to the one in San Diego. But the conservation side of things, people are mad, oh, you're making money off these animals, like dolphins jumping out of the water doing tricks. And that money goes back into rescuing the sea turtles. They have done so much work for sea turtles, for birds, for like the people don't see that side. And yeah, they need to make money. And this is how they make money, by people buying those tickets. And then that goes back into the ones that are in the wild. The work that like SeaWorld, we'll use them as an example, have done for ocean like conservation is incredible. And people just aren't seeing that side of it. They just see what these like videos and are like, oh, all the cruelty. And those videos drive me crazy anyway, because they don't show you the whole story. It's very easy to, what do I need here? It's very easy to film something and frame it in a way that is very, very deceiving. Like, I've got my greyhounds laying over here. I don't think you can see him behind me, but like Wade laying over there on his bed. If I put sad music to it and frame it in a way that makes you think he's so abused and he's so lonely and you'll make it, like, you can make something appear to be very, very negative with the right music and the right framing. And that's what a lot of those documentaries did. There's some truth to what they said. I'm not saying it's all lies. I definitely would like to see certain things improved on in certain situations. I'm don't get me wrong, but they make it sound like everything is negative and everything is bad. And they try to shut everything down instead of just improving on what's being done. So that is one of those things with the zoos. It's like, there are zoos out there that are not good, that I don't think should be open, and I don't think those animals should be there. So, I'm not going to play like they're all right, all good. But like the Fort Worth Zoo is amazing. Dallas Zoo is, from what I've seen, amazing. And I don't have as much experience with Dallas, but Fort Worth I've been to a lot, and that zoo is like those. If I was an animal, I think I would rather live at the Fort Worth Zoo than in the wild. Like, they're just so amazing the way they're set up. But anyway, mountain chicken frog, or am I thinking the wrong thing? Is not a mountain chicken frog. That is hilarious. Let's see. Gypsy Heart said, there was an article yesterday about minks and how the wild ones had some kind of mutated COVID and were being put down. Didn't get to read the whole article, but glimpse was said. Yeah, that, I don't know all the details in that, but that you are correct. What I do know was really sad, what I read about it. They were also apparently, because they didn't bury them deep enough, the gases brought them up. So they were saying it was like zombie, there was movement after. Zombie minks. Jesse said, yeah, it's the same with fish. You have to order an extra fish or two, because who knows if they'll make it through transportation. Exactly. Sometimes you'll even lose all of them, unfortunately. Yeah, fish are really, really rough. Nick says, Lisa doesn't know it, but she lost her inner argument about getting more frogs. They're bee-themed. How do you not get bee-themed frogs? Anyway, no, yeah, you are absolutely right with fish. Luckily with me, I have my fish store that I go to. I can just, this should work, Heather. Ooh, that's good. We got that highlight on that ridge there. I don't have to ship fish usually, although Ben, my beta, had to be shipped. And even Ben, that's a good story. Like, just talking about, you have to have a bit of a stomach for some of these critters. My beta, Ben, I've only had him for a couple of months now. And he was imported and shipped to me. and he was totally healthy. Well, let's see if I can summarize this story. I didn't realize it. One of my mystery snails had died in the tank, and it had to have happened within the last, actually it could have been longer. I just didn't catch that he was decaying under the filter. So I noticed that there was a bit more algae on the glass than usual, and I don't really have an issue with algae in that tank. It's a planted aquarium, so very, very natural setup. The water quality had gone to hell because of the snail had died in there. I still have 2 other snails, but that one, that's an issue. So Ben had a growth right between his gills on his chin. I noticed that. So I did a water change. And when I did the water change, I realized the filter was completely clogged up. It shouldn't have been because I had just cleaned that out not long ago. So I found what had happened with that snail. And I think he got stuck under the filter and died there. Like just jammed himself under somehow. But I don't know if the poor water quality, there was no way like for me to know. I was doing my normal water changes, but he had that growth. And so when I did a 50% water change that night, changed everything, changed all the filter media, and then did another 75% water change. Now, you would not do that big of a water change on a normal fish tank. In his case, because he's a betas breathe air. So it's a little bit different, like the way normally you wouldn't go that big of a water change for most fish. But his little, whatever happened, I think it was an abscess that maybe it got infected from the nasty water. I have no way of knowing for certain that's what caused it, but I think, I can kind of make a guess, and he's all better now. I'm so glad. But it was like, I was so sad that I might lose him. But he is good now. That is definitely a challenge. Like if you have a cat or a dog that gets sick, it's harder when you lose them, but like you can take them to a vet. I can't really do that with a fish. Thank you for the super chat, Jackie. Oh, goosebumps. So thank you for all you do. You're the reason I am now able to draw. My cat and Bubbles would never have happened without your tips over the last year. Oh my gosh, that drawing is amazing. Oh, thank you so much. Wow, if I get credit for that painting happening, that is a win, because that is a freaking amazing piece. Thank you so much. Let's see, scrolling back up. Sorry, I'm coming back here. There we go. Princess Beach said, how do you have your camera set up over your drawing? Could you show us a setup for your lives? The lives are the same. If you look at I did a video, you should see it on my front page, but where I went over all of like my tech gear or whatever, how I make my videos, that showed exactly how I have it set up. It's on a boom mic stand. So, and I talk about and I show you that, and that's the easiest way is for you to go watch that video. It's a long video, so I warn you, get some coffee. You're going to be bored until you get to that section. Let's see. Julie said, hi, Lisa, just wanted to say thanks. I put my version of the colored pencil orange lesson on my Facebook, and now I have a commission to do in acrylics. That is so awesome. Congratulations. Fine Art Ann said, when you talk about animals, you as a human and owner need to be the responsible one and do the necessary research and select the responsible breeder too, not just thinking the cost. Absolutely. And that is something that a lot of people don't get. And I see this I see it with dogs too, where people are looking for a certain breed of dog, but they want to find a breeder that's cheap. And it's like, your vet bills are going to far outweigh whatever you paid for that dog. Go to a good breeder who you're getting a healthy dog from versus a breeder who, a backyard breeder, puppy miller, that sort of thing, where you're guaranteeing yourself some health issues. But no, or I mean, of course, the Humane Society, but it's like people don't they look at the initial cost and don't do the research. And I see this so often, especially the frog groups. I see it in the fish groups too, but I see it more with frogs. Or one of the ones that just, God, it pisses me off. People who come into these groups, and now I'm glad you're doing the research now, but you came home from the pet store. Hi, I just got this frog. Can you guys tell me how to take care of it? Shouldn't you have done that first? Shouldn't you ask people how to take care of it before you went and bought it to find out if you even can take care of it? Because it's currently in an unsuitable environment. Like its habitat is not what it should be because you didn't do any research. And now you're telling us, well, I can't afford to buy these things. You shouldn't have bought the frog or whatever the animal is. And you see it with all animals. And oh my gosh, does that drive me crazy? Like these are living animals. Take care of them. If you're going to do it, like you said, you've got to be responsible and do the research first. And it drives me insane. There was a video a girl made. One of my friends sent it to me. She got I might have talked about this before. She got a, hermit crabs. And I'm just layering magentas and oranges to kind of build up my beak. I'm going to go for a shiny look there. But she got hermit crabs, and she said she'd been looking for some for a while, but she wanted to adopt. She didn't want to go to a pet store. So good for her on that. Or in this case, because I don't think hermit crabs should be sold, and that's a whole other rant. That is one animal that I don't think should be sold. It should be available, but to people who did their research. They're very hard to keep alive long term. Properly. So you'll get a few people like, oh, I had them for years and they didn't have them properly. Okay, that does occasionally happen, just like occasionally someone can smoke until they're 120 and be fine. Most of the time you're going to end up with some issues. So anyway, she said she was looking for these hermit crabs, but she didn't do any research before. So she looked for the hermit crabs, went and got them when someone didn't have them set up right, brought them home, and then decided to do the research. You're doing that out of order there. You're supposed to do one before the other and not the order you just did it in. So that really drives me crazy, and it really drives me crazy. I'm more critical of YouTubers doing it because we influence people, whether we think we do or not. People see that and go, oh, I'm going to do the same thing. That's cool. And it's like, I don't know. I just wish people were more responsible. Let's see. Kimberly said, why has Liquitex Basic gotten such a bad rap through artists though? They're top tier. Because they're listed as a student brand or student, which is funny. I don't know why they list them that way. They're not as highly pigmented. Well, if you're like me and you do a lot of glazes, you don't want highly pigmented. You want, that's why I like Liquitex Basics. And a lot of people think it needs to be really opaque and really thick in order to get the look they want. And that is true for certain styles. Like when we did the palette knife painting, that we do want the thicker, more pigmented. But then the way that I typically paint with layers and glazes, Liquitex Heavy Body and Liquitex Soft Body, they both dry too fast, and neither one of them are translucent enough for the way that I work. So, a lot of artists don't work in glazes, and so of course Liquitex Basics isn't going to be ideal for them, and then they're just like, oh, it's crap, it's terrible. But the thing is, most of the Liquitex Basics are light fast. There are a few colors that are not, like fluorescent colors and such, but most of them are light fast. Most of them are really, really good, and people just don't realize that. So I think that's why, just because they're listed as student grade, they assume that means poor quality. And it doesn't, it usually does, but in this case it doesn't. It's a difference in they're not as pigmented. It's not that the color's not there. It's almost like they're already watered down. They're thinner. It has more of the fillers or binders, or I don't know what the word is, but more of that and less of the pigment itself. And some people just think that means bad. Gypsy Heart said, speaking of sketchbooks, I bought one that I might actually work in consistently. Stillman and Byrne came out with one that has a toned tan gray and black paper all in one. Ooh, that sounds interesting. I think if I were to actually stick with a sketchbook, it would have to be a toned one too. Maybe I should buy one. Because, I buy sketchbooks and then just don't use them. That's like my thing. Angel said, with the intent that I'm going to use them, but I know I never do. Angel said, I'm not reading this right. All that separate the same, again, not reading it right. All that separate the sane from the insane is the one bad day. Alan Moore. Gail said, just curious, I missed the live stream that birthed the zombie snail concept. How did that come about? We were doing it was a Smart Art box with, was it watercolor markers, I think? And I just thought that would be kind of a fun project. And it actually wasn't the best idea because the colors, I didn't realize the colors that came in those watercolor markers were intended for florals. So I didn't really have a whole lot to work with. And that one wasn't great. But when I did it, it was like one of those things where I did it and it was like, this is terrible. I want to do it good. And so then I was like, I'll do it in acrylic. So I still wanted it to be cutesy and cartoony, but that's what started that. And I just like zombies. So anything zombie. And I like zombies. I like snails. I'm like, let's combine those too. It was just random. Angel said, agreed. Emotional manipulation is so 2019. Peta can go and insert your swear word. I totally agree. Peta and HSUS, if you are not aware, do not ever ever give money to HSUS, the Humane Society of the United States. They aren't a humane society. Give money to your local animal shelter or local like dog rescues or something like that. Do not give money to HSUS. All they are is a lobbying group. They lobby, they take the money you give them that they tell you they're going to use, like the Sarah McLachlan, whatever her name is, thing, the harms of the angel, whatever. I can't sing, so I'm screeching. That song with those animals are like, set for as little as $10 a month. You can save this animal. They don't save animals. They donate. It's something like less than 2% or some crazy amount. Like it's almost nothing that they actually donate or give back to shelters. They take that money and use it. They're a lobbyist group. It's for advertising. It's for their own CEOs, and it's for trying to put an end to animal ownership. So if you have pets and you're like, I love having dogs, they don't want you having dogs. So just something to be, I'm lightly going over this with the Derwent Drawing Chinese White because it's very opaque. I want to get that shiny look on a few areas here. But yeah, they don't give money. They're not helping animals. Donate your money if you want to donate to actually help animals. Either a local rescue, a breed-specific rescue. If you have a certain breed that you love, like greyhounds or whatever, you can donate to them directly, or your local humane society directly. Do not donate through these big things you see on TV. Oh, the chickadees are fine. Or not chickadees, the house finches are finally back. They've been gone for months. Yay! I have to put some more food out for them. This is the first time I've seen them in forever. So anyway, you want to I'm all for donating for the animals, but make sure you're donating to something that's actually going for animals. And the cool thing is when you donate to like a local breed, like let's say breed specific rescue, if you donate to like the Greyhound group, that money covers when they come in from the breeder or the track, it covers getting the dental work done, getting spayed and neutered. Like it covers a lot of really good things. That money's going to actually get that animal set up to be in the best possible health. Like it takes care of all their vet bills to get them set up to go into their new homes. Susan said, I kept discus for years, loved them. A breeding pair, unfortunately, never got past eggs being laid. No baby fish. Discus are hard to, they're so gorgeous. So pretty. Way too hard for my taste. They want like pristine water. And you think, you take care, you have a saltwater reef tank. That wants pristine water, not like discus. Discus wants like freaking sterile environment nearly. They're such beautiful, beautiful fish. Let's see. I never really got myself into salt or freshwater fish. I just have I have a beta because my thing, and this is where my vivariums and my frogs are coming, like where I'm coming from with them. I love the frogs. I love the plants. That is like my big thing. I wanted a vivarium, and the vivariums, they're enclosed, and so you can have plants that need higher humidity that aren't going to do well in the rest of the studio. So I'm able to keep a lot of really cool plants that way. Like I've got some jeweled orchids, and all three of my vivariums have them. So you're able to do a lot that you can't otherwise do. And then it's like, well, if I'm going to have this vivarium, I may as well have some critters in there too. So that's kind of how my mind works there. But that's the planted tank for the beta. That's the only reason I have that really is I wanted a planted aquarium. But if I'm going to do that, I may as well have a beta, right? And snails, because who doesn't want snails? Sarah said, I can unfortunately tell by experience that buying a dog in a cheap place is ask for a tragedy. I was a child at the time. It was awful. Yep. And that is very common, unfortunately. Karen said, hi, Lisa. Finally did catch a live stream again. I changed my profile pic to my creepy October challenge drawing better than my cat picture. Do we get a December challenge too on MeWe? Yes, actually, and I need to still do, I don't think I've uploaded the November. Wait, for Patreon or for the group challenge? I don't know. Joseph has been doing the group challenges. So he comes up with the ideas on those. I don't know how I suckered him into because I just wasn't doing them. And then he was like, I guess he would do them. And he does a really good job. We'll have to ask him what the plan is that with those ones. Beth said, missed an hour, but I'm back now. Hopefully I can stay a little longer now. Yay, welcome back. Whoop, that just scrolled too far. Angel said, ooh, is it Taylor Nicole? No, it was not her. Taking care of animals isn't just a picnic. On contrary, though, she's kind of admitted that she did wrong. You still have a responsibility as an influencer. Yeah, and that's the thing with the influencer thing. I feel like you have to, I don't know, maybe I take it too seriously, but it's like people see my posts. That's why let me tell you the dark side, like the gross side of the frogs. Let me tell you about how much work that stuff is. I don't want it to be, like a lot of videos I watch are like, it's so amazing, it's so easy, you should get this. And it can be, but you also, like, pros and cons. You need to know the pros and cons. Like right now, I've got those baby red-eyed tree frogs, and I'm every night, it's only maybe 20 minutes of work, but I have to go through, clean out their tank, keep it really, you know, I'm trying to keep it as sterile as possible at this point, just to keep any bacterial potential problems from spreading with them. But you know, it's a lot. And so no one sees that side when I post the cute photo. So I just think it's important for YouTubers and such to show the entire story of care. Now, it's up to the individual too. Do your research. Don't just see something cute like, oh, I saw a cute llama. No, I want a llama. I'm going to go buy a llama. Do some research. If you don't know anything about llamas, you probably don't want one. So, you know, it definitely, I mean, the person who runs out and buys one is, in the end, the one responsible. But I do wish that the influencers and such would show more of the pros and cons. Like, here's the downside that you might not have thought about. Nick said, your house finches there in Texas recently fled freezing Maine. Yeah, that's probably why they're back now. They were gone. When did they disappear? Like August, September, October? Like, they've been gone for a few months now. I need to definitely go change those feeders. The food is probably not good. Actually, I need to go buy some new food. I haven't had to put any food out lately. Angel said, the one that broke my heart was when her power system for her crocs and some birds broke. Almost 15 died. Horrible. See, and that, no, I don't know a lot about that, but that's one of the things that it sometimes happens. Like, you can do the absolute best care, and you just have a mechanical failure. That's one of the things that happens in fish tanks. A pump goes out, you're not home, you don't catch it, the fish all suffocate while you're gone. You know, stuff like that is just one of those things that happens that you can do your best. Or a heater failure is a big one in aquariums. So like with mine, I try to minimize the risk as much as possible. So I have a device, I forget what it's called, but my heater is plugged into it, and it has its temperature thing is in the tank. So if the temperature ever gets above, I think it's 83 degrees, an alarm goes off and it cuts power to the heater. So the heater can't malfunction and cook the fish. It happens a lot. And so it's cases like that, I don't blame the person. There are things we can do to minimize the risk, but it's always a risk. Let's see. Karen said, yes, the MeWe group art challenge for December. We do not have one for November. We'll see what Joseph's planning for that. Because heaven forbid I actually do it. Beth said, I have a Rhodesian Ridgeback. That's a breed I made. That's one of my top, that's one I'm considering. Not like, well, I have these too, but in the future. He's such a softie, and I swear he thinks he's the size of a Chihuahua, how he bounces about. I love them. My initial plan was to get a Greyhound. Actually, my initial plan was an Iberian Hound and a Ridgeback. But then I was like, I've always wanted like a Greyhound. That's why I had how I initially got into Italian Greyhounds is I wanted a Greyhound, but my apartment back in California only allowed up to like 20 pounds. So I got the Italian Greyhound, and not the same, let me tell you. But, add some blue in here. So I got those guys. So anyway, I got Gibson, and then we were thinking for the next big dog, like one that could actually bark if someone was trying to murder you. The Greyhounds will not do that. So that was the plan. But then Wade came available, and I already knew the people with the Greyhound thing. I was like, Wade can come live with us. So no Ridgeback for me anytime in the near future. But it's one of the breeds that I'm very, very, because they're still Sighthounds. Just not quite as big of pansies as Greyhounds are, or other Sighthounds. Nick says, I have a Boston who thinks he's the size of a Rhodesian Ridgeback. Yours almost is, though, Nick. What did you say? Yours was like 30 pounds? He's huge. He's a big one. Hello Shiny said, I never wanted a llama, ever. I wanted a goat, though. Ended up with a sheep and called him Llama, and he thinks he's a dog. Oh, my gosh. I like goats. My husband wants, well, he says llama, but it would be an alpaca. He wants all the farm animals. That's the other thing. I actually need to do a video showing the amount of care that a lot of the animals take, like the birds. So Matt's in charge of taking care of the birds. We have them in the chicken room. We call it the chicken room. It's actually his computer room that the birds are in. But he, like Sushi's cage has to be cleaned every single day because he eats so much fruit and vegetables and it ends up all over. So you have to clean that every single day. Otherwise he can get sick. So she also gets a fresh food and fresh fruit and vegetables every day, and that can only stay there for 4 hours before it has to be switched out for a new batch because that will start to spoil. Like, there's a lot involved in like the nugget and chicken. Chicken doesn't like the fresh stuff, but nugget will eat it. But you've got more work than I think a lot of people realize on a lot of these guys. And it's worth it if you have time for it. Not everybody does. Or the sound, like chicken. Chicken is a big one. Oh my gosh, chicken screams a lot. Chicken wants to be with you in the room all the time. Even if you're in the room half the time, he's like, I'm going to scream my chicken head off. So it gets really, really noisy. And I don't think people realize how annoying that can get at times. So I love the bird, but my God, that can be that nonstop scream, 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 scream when he's just having his little hissy fit because he wants more attention. And the more attention you give him, the more he screams sometimes, like, he wants it all the time. But and chicken gets a lot of attention, so don't think that chicken is remotely neglected. But I don't think people realize necessarily how noisy and how messy birds can be. So a lot of people get them and then realize, okay, this is too much, and then the bird ends up being in the cage too much, not getting enough attention, whatever. So that's another thing I wish people would show that side of things a bit more, just so people knew what they were getting themselves into. I already knew that. I grew up with birds, so I knew what we were getting into. Let's see. Where were we? Angel said, to some they'd say, oh, just animals. But for me, I've witnessed those poor animals grow with her vlogs and then suddenly died. Yeah, and I mean, again, I don't know a ton about. I know she had some serious issues. But, that it happens. But when it keeps happening, like, there's a guy who is one of the most popular fish YouTubers, not George. But he is, I don't want to say the name, guy's a dick. Oh my God, there is no other way to word this. I met him. I want nothing to do with this guy. So anyway, so much. And he makes videos and he shows you how to make your own stands and how to do stuff. And his fish are constantly dying because he does everything wrong. He doesn't know what he's doing, but he's very, very cocky and he's telling everybody how to do this and how to do that. And he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's giving horrible advice. And I mean, his tank builds, the stands are not going to long-term hold up because he doesn't have the weight balance the way it needs to be. I have a friend who builds tank stands, so I know how they're supposed to be. Those are not them. And for some reason, because he got really famous on YouTube, people think he knows what he's talking about. And this guy is like violent, has issues. I've seen what he said to people, that he does the whole where he wants to fight everybody. Like there's some serious issues there mentally, but he also gives really, really crap advice that, like, you can't even keep your own fish alive. What are you giving other people advice on this for? Drives me insane. Let's see. Allura said, I'm considering between an eclectus or an African gray. What would your advice be recommended? Hands down, eclectus. African grays are amazing birds, and I don't think they're suitable for most people. So both are extremely intelligent. But grays, you need to stimulate that bird mentally so much more than the average person has time for. I know how to do it. I don't have time for them. And I think that's the time commitment. Either way, you've got a huge time commitment with a bird. But African grays are extremely, extremely demanding in the amount of time. If you don't stimulate them, I mean, they'll start plucking their own feathers. And you can get that with a lot of different types of birds. But I mean, it's very common with them because they're the anxiety level of they're not getting what they need. They are too smart. I mean, take a genius and lock him in a cage and see how he fares mentally. And that's what happens with a lot of grays. Amazing birds. They also are more bitey. Grays can be jerks with I'm in a mood. I'm going to make sure you know physically. So you have that more with grays. But now grays can be good. I'm going to have somebody get mad at me. Am I grays perfect? No, grays are amazing birds for the right person. They're not for the average person. I know, like, again, I'm a bird person. I know birds. I'm not a fit for a gray. So I think you have to understand the time that they need, and they're too intelligent. So hands down, I would say eclectus. They're really cool birds anyway. Like, knowing the different personality types with birds, I think a lot of people get in their head that, like, they're kind of all the same, or this one just talks more, therefore that's what I want. The talking, I know a lot of people get hung up on how well a bird talks, but honestly, that doesn't matter that much when you're living with it. Like it gets, I don't want to say it gets old. It just doesn't hold the same, like it is cute. I mean, when Nugget talks and is in there going, baby bird, baby bird, baby bird. It's adorable. Nugget's tiny, little parrotlet, but it's not like the main thing that you want to focus on. And I think a lot of people do when it comes to birds. They're like, this one talks really good, so this is what I want. Talking's just not that big of a deal. You'll be over it pretty quick. And I don't mean over it as in it annoys you, just in that you're not as enamored by like, oh my gosh, this is the best thing in the world because the bird talks. Kind of like dogs. Like people will, Italian greyhounds, this is a common thing. So many people will have a certain color that they want, but in practice, when you're living with that dog, the color doesn't even matter anymore. It's the personality. So that's why you want to go for the personality, not how it looks. Like greyhounds, I love how greyhounds look. Some people, they may love how they look, but they don't have the personality type that fits with that owner, and that's the same with the different birds. But yeah, I would look further into Eclectus. Let's see. Sarah said, are your dogs spoiled? Mine judge me when I'm studying and not giving enough attention to them. They are way too spoiled, definitely. I enjoy and I have to balance because I want to spoil them like crazy. But if you spoil them too much, you can end up with some behavioral issues because they're like, oh, I get what I want all the time. I am in charge. Not all dogs will do that, but Gibson does it. So I have to watch that when he like starts getting demanding of it's time to play, it's time for this, it's time for that. That's when I know he's like, he actually did that last night. He'll get to where he starts trying to tell me what to do. So he got yelled at last night. I left the room. I got up at night to get a drink of water. I go back in and he snarled. He like lunged, snarled when I came back in, and he was awake. So this wasn't a sleep startle issue. So he got yelled at. He still knows, like he knows he's on my list. But it's good. And it's not that I want to be mean to him. He just needs to know he doesn't get to tell me he doesn't want me walking past his bed. Like that's not your choice to make. He's very protective of his pets. It's a weird thing anyway, we know about him. But I mean, I have to watch that because I want to spoil him all the time and always give him every single thing he wants. But I have to make sure I maintain that I'm in charge because that could get to be a bit ugly. Not all dogs do that. Certain ones. One of my past Italian greyhounds, Echo, she was like that too, where she gets snarly. Like if I'm not getting my way, I'm gonna flip out until you let her know you're the boss. Let's see. Fine Art Ian said, I have 2 Alaskan Malamutes, but even though these are the one for me, I almost never recommend these to other people unless I know they're the right kind of people for this breed. Exactly. That's how it was with Italian Greyhounds too. Like people would see the photos and think, oh, how cute. And it's like, okay, but I mean, do you want to have to watch them like a hawk? Because they will pee on your floor the second you turn your back. That's not forever. It's not for me anymore. I'm not dealing with that. I won't do small dogs again because it's so common with small dogs. But yeah, I was always the same thing. Like you can never like try to tell people there's some pluses. I loved them, but you need to know about the negatives too to know if it's a fit for you. Kimberly said, I forgot what do you call a person whose job is around birds? It's not an I don't even know what that word is. Somewhere between. I have no idea what it is. That I have no clue. We had lots of Amazons growing up. Amazons and macaws and some cockatoos were like our main, and then the lovebirds that my mom bred too were the main birds we had. And we had Amazon, so they live a long time. I mean, they're going to outlive you. So this bird had several owners beforehand, and I don't know why he ended up with us. His name was Willie, but he would yell. I mean, you could hear this bird down the street, Bob! Bob! So I'm guessing the wife of whoever Bob was constantly screaming at him from the other room, and the bird picked that up, and it was hilarious, but also annoying. And neighbors are just like, because it sounds like a person. You would never know this was a bird screaming for Bob. That was funny. Kimberly said, oh, I found it. It's called a falconer. Oh, okay. I would not have guessed that. Nick said, my dog will curl into a ball of self-loathing if I look at him at all crossly. And that's basically what Gibson is doing. He's going to pout until I make a big deal and play with him. But I want him like, go ahead and pout, because you need to know that the snarling and lunging at me, because I don't want to get bit. We're not playing those games. So you can pout. I know. He gets very pouty if he knows he's in trouble. Well, part of too, what'll happen with him, he basically just lost. He thought he was in charge, and I just let him know last night he's not. And so they're going to, and Echo would do the same thing. She'd kind of pout for a day or so when you take that control away, because there's like a bit of a shift in pack leadership, essentially. So, and I don't always realize he's doing it because it's just like the constant demanding to play, the constant demanding walks, the constant, and it'll get to where it's annoying. Like he'll follow me around huffing, like, he'll just keep doing that over and over again with slight whines and nudging me because he wants to walk. And it gets annoying, but it's also like, I mean, he's not hurting anything, whatever. But that's a sign he's telling me it's time to walk and what to do. And he's gotten bad with that the last couple of days. So I should have known that this was coming and gotten it under control. And for me, the main way I get back, like let them know that I'm in charge, is make him lay down somewhere he doesn't want to lay down. So not on a bed ideally, but like just on the area rug or whatever. Lay down, call him. Lay down, call him. Like down and stay and then come. And we do that exercise a bit over and over again. And it's like, it just kind of reinforces you're going to do what I tell you to do. Like there's no drama. There's no one's being mean to anybody, but it's like, you have to do what I tell you to do right now. We're going to do this until we get this down. Fine Art Ann said, dogs that have no rules are unhappy dogs. It gets too stressful to dogs to always be the one who makes the decision, so you easily start to get troubles. Exactly. Not all dogs, and some people will tell you, oh, that's not true. Dogs don't do that. Like there's a thing, people will go on the whole pack leadership thing. That's not true in wolves, and they rescinded that study. No, one person did. Most people understand that's a real thing. But you get a few people who will be determined that that's not a thing. It's not a thing for all dogs. Not all dogs want to fight you for pack leadership, and so they don't all do it. Okay, I've been lucky enough to have two now that want to fight for that. Jessie really didn't. And Jessie's thing, if she started to think she was boss dog, she would just scream her head off. Actually, that's what Gibson will do too. If you tell him to lay down and he doesn't want to, he'll scream like you like beat him, even though you weren't even touching him. You just told him to lay down. Sighthounds are crazy. They're screamers too. But yeah, that Echo and Gibson are definitely the worst that I've had. But not, like I said, not all dogs will do it. Angel said, since you read books, why I'm not reading this right. Since you read books, why people fascinates flawed character? That is not coming out right. Huh? Why are people fascinated by a flawed character? I'm not reading word X. I'm not sure if I'm getting quite what you're saying, but I'm guessing what you're asking about is why people are fascinated by flawed characters. And I think it's because it makes them relatable. I mean, like the books, I'm listening to Zombie Fallout right now. God, those are definitely more books for guys, I would say. Not that, I mean, I'm a woman and I'm enjoying it, but it gets gruesome on some of the parts. But anyway, there's a character in there who is horrible. This lady is just an old, mean, well, she's murdered someone in the past before the zombies happened, but she's harsh. She makes decisions based on keeping herself safe, and she does not care what happens to anybody else. She's just a nasty woman, but she's also relatable. And so even though she's a terrible character, she makes choices that you're like, I'd do the same thing, honestly. So it's very, she's one of the more interesting characters, and I'm going to be sad if I don't know, I haven't gotten far enough to know if anything will happen to her, but the more it gets into her, you'll get to stages where you're like, oh my gosh, I hope she dies. She's so horrible. She just did the worst thing, and someone was really suffered because of the choice she made. But then she'll do something else, and you're like, I get it. So I don't know. Sergi said, sounds like Gibson has the personality, whereas Wade is generally the cute, derpy one. Yeah, I would definitely say that's the case. Wade is so sweet, and you just want to scrunch his face. But Gibson's hilarious. Gibson, I keep joking, I'm like, he was reincarnated, like he was a person at one point. Because that dog understands things he should not understand. He will be out in the backyard, and he'll go, so I have to follow, they burn the grass when they go, so I have to hose it down. So he'll be going to one end that's too far from the hose. I'll be like, don't go over there, go to the other side of the yard. And I'm just talking out loud, not like he understands it. I've not trained him any of that. He'll look at me, turn around, and go to the where I want. I'm like, you shouldn't understand. That shouldn't have happened right there. And I know it's coincidence, but it's just funny. And it happens so often with him where I'm like, I just talk to him during the day. I work by myself, so I'm just talking all the time, and where he'll react in a way that a human would. And I'm like, you shouldn't have understood the words I just said. I was just talking because I talk. He creeps me out every once in a while with that, where I'm like, you should not have understood that. And I know it's coincidence, but it's so funny. Yeah, he has a lot of personality. Angel said, is it okay to make a lynx or a bobcat as a pet? Is it legal? I have no idea. I would assume it's not a good idea for most people. The thing, people get into like wanting weird, rare pet. Okay, says the girl with all the frogs. But they get into wanting a lot of these weird, rare pets because they're weird or rare. And it's like, there's a reason dogs are so popular. They're suitable for most. You know, like there are better pets than most lynx or bobcat. I don't know in those cases. Oh, itchy nose. But you've got natural instinct that they've not been domesticated like a dog, and it's just not suitable for most people. And I know that's the case with a lot. Oh my gosh, itchy nose, please stop. NH, my allergies are going crazy today. NH Chicky said, you like books? The Bad Place by Dean Koontz is a great book. I drew some of the characters on it. Interesting. I've not read any of his books. My father-in-law does. Oh, even around my nose is all itchy now. All allergies. Let's see. Hello, Shiny said, the craziest thing, I have twice now taken my sheep with me while rounding up sheep, and he helps. He takes one corner and doesn't let them get past. He's a good sheepdog. That is funny. Oh, itchy nose, making me insane. Angel said, a character development, but Mystique was supposed to be an antagonist, but with recent X-Men movies, they kind of humanize her. Interesting. Joanna said, Lachri Fine Arts could not be more right. A Great Pyrenees are independent thinkers and will never change, but we have company meetings about boundaries. Exactly. That's kind of like I would say that's similar to Gibson. I mean, Sighthounds in general are going to be more independent because what they were bred for was hunting, and the way that they hunt, they have to do so independently. They have to make choices on their own and do what they know is right to do. They, unlike, let's say, a herding breed, like an Australian Shepherd has to watch the owner for instruction. So that's why a lot of people will think Australian Shepherds are smarter than like a Sighthound, because he's not going to do what I tell him. Well, Wade is actually a jerk, but like Gibson is smart. Gibson figures things out fast. And people would think, well, he's stupid because he's not doing what he was told. No, he knows what he can get away with, and he knows how far he can push that line before I finally am like, okay, I've had enough, and I'm going to make you lay down when I told you to or whatever. So you get a lot of people who mistake a dog being stubborn with being stupid, and it is not the same thing. It's what they were bred for. So again, you've got your herding breeds, Border Collie, Australian Shepherds. People are like, they're so smart, and they are. They tend to be very smart. But they are also, they want to please humans, whereas a Sighthound's like, you're here to please me. I'm not doing anything for you. So yeah, you have a big difference there. And I'm going to likely end up coming through with this with a little bit of touch-up texture titanium white mixture later on. And I'm at a stage now where I'm starting to burnish. I'm definitely starting to push a bit harder with these pencils. Wait, oh. Hold on, email. Let's see if I got anything from Josh's Frog Bag. Ooh, new patron. Hold on. Where are we? No Josh's Frogs yet. But welcome if you're watching, Cindy. Yay! Still nothing from Josh's Frogs, though. I don't know if they'll get back to me today or not. I mean, he looks like he's doing okay as of right now. That photo, it is a gruesome looking photo. I'll probably end up sending it to Nick just because I've been sending him frog stuff. But I won't be posting that online. So we just start getting these little details and building up. Now the color to me, as always, is not that big of a deal. I am focused on, are my lights light enough, my darks dark enough? That's really what matters more here. And it is tiny, so I'm not going to have anywhere near as much detail as what that reference photo has. Paul said, any thoughts on Irish wolfhounds? I want one. I would love one, but they only live like 5-6 years, 7 max. So more like 6-7 years. They are not, because they're a giant breed, they do not live very long. And that is the reason I won't own one. Borzoi. I would love, Borzoi are probably my favorite of all breeds. I can't deal with only getting to have them for, 5, 6, 7 years. The giant breeds just are not long lived. So if you're okay, like if you are a strong enough person that every 5 years, I keep saying 5, but it's really usually like 6 or 7 years, you can go through that loss and then get a new puppy, obviously, at that point, then go for it. But for me, I don't possess that strength. That's definitely a downside of some of the larger breeds, like even the greyhounds. They don't live as long as Italian greyhounds live. Looking for a white polychromos. I'm looking for my nose to stop itching. Let's see. Joanna said, however, independent thinkers are the most empathy driven. They are free. They are soul feelers. If you hurt, they hurt. Well, Jessie would say otherwise. So Jessie, my Italian Greyhound, she was my first Italian Greyhound, and she unfortunately is no longer with us, but she did not care. Echo would care more, but Jessie was more, you are here to make me happy. I don't care if you're sick. I don't care anything. Like, you're here to serve me. Which honestly, I still love that about her. Like, oh, she was so ornery. But yeah. Paul said, oh, that makes me sad. Yeah, it's why I can't. I would love an Irish Wolfhound, but I can't do it. Paul said, I thought giant dogs outlived small ones. No, it's generally the reverse. Normally, the bigger the breed, the less length. Now, there are certain ones. Is it a Bernese Mountain Dog? Well, there is another kind of medium-sized breed that 5 years is about. Is it Bernese Mountain Dog? I may have that wrong. But that don't live long. But more often than not, the larger you get, the kind of shrinks down the life expectancy. The smaller dogs, I mean, you can have a Dachshund that lives 17, 18, 19, well, usually not 19, but it's not uncommon to have a Dachshund or even an Italian Greyhound to live 17, 18 years. So, I mean, Jessie was only 15, so I felt like she was kind of young. I feel a little cheated, not going to lie. But, no, the smaller ones, Chihuahuas, are very long-lived. You have the smaller breeds. Now, when you get into like pugs and stuff that have the smushed faces, you tend to have more health problems there. But like the average like breed that doesn't have those sorts of issues, yeah, they're very long-lived. And H. Chicky said, I have a cockaleer. Oh, I'm guessing a mixed breed that is 11 years old. Nice. Phyllis said, see, I'm not one that, I don't do the whole mixing breeds to make a new one, like a new name. I'm like, my brain won't go, like I can't, I'm like, what? So a Cocker Cavalier Spaniel? Or is that what that is? I'm like, even my neighbor, she calls them the doodles, but I'm like, my brain says, no, that's a lab poodle. There's no doodle. Like, that's not a thing. Oh God, total side thing. So when you get into like labradoodles or golden, whatever, there was a story somebody wrote. They were at a park and this woman was telling her how she thought that doodle was a gene. So you can mix two poodles and end up with a golden doodle because they had the golden doodle or the doodle gene. Some of the misinformation out there on breeding, genetics is hilarious. Anyway, that was less of a funny story when I tell it. Phyllis said, our 2 Great Danes only made it to 9, which isn't bad for them. Very hard. Oh yeah, 9 is actually old for a Dane. Yeah, Great Danes are another breed that I really like. Amy said giant schnauzers are 12 to 15. So, but they're not that big. Like it says giant, but they're not actually a giant breed. So a giant breed, you're talking about like Irish Wolfhounds, Borzoi, Great Danes, like the breeds that are horse size, those are what we would consider a giant breed. Whereas a giant Schnauzer is still not, like it's a large breed, but not what you would consider a giant, if that makes sense, even though the word giant is in their name. They're cool dogs. That's actually a breed I really like. Where were we? Joseph said, so Jessie was a cat, is what you were saying. Jessie was definitely a cat. It was funny because she would rub up on my legs and we'd always go, oh, you're a kitty, meow, kitty, meow. Like, I mean, we're dorks. But we would always say, yeah, she's a kitty, meow, because that was like her. Yes, Jessie was a cat. That is a good way to put it. Rayan said, I came in late. Know what paper you're using? Yes, this is the smooth side of gray, a gray. It's kind of actually more of a tan, out of the Canson Mi-Teintes. Nick said, my mother had a mini dachshund that lived 18 years. Yep, they are long-lived. Joanna said, my George and Fiona are both therapy dogs, but at home, just big goofballs. And H. Chicky said, yes, a Cocker Spaniel and Cavalier King Charles. Oh, good, I guessed right. Thank you. It's like a match game type thing. I don't know. I like matching games. Fine Art Ann said, my Great Pyrenees girl lived 12 years and her sister lived 2 months longer. And I know a few Great Pyrenees that have lived 13 or 14. That is long for that large of a breed. That's cool. Paul said, how about a Mastiff or Chow Chow? Yeah, I don't like Chows. I don't like the personality type of Chows. They were overbred essentially they're a guard dog. And a lot of people don't realize that. They're just like, oh, it's a cute fluffy bear that will eat your neighbors if you don't keep it like on a leash. And then on top of that, back in like, was it the 80s, they got really popular. And whenever a breed gets super, super popular, people have a tendency, you get a lot of backyard breeders who are like, oh, I have a brother and sister puppy. Let's let them have babies because I'm an idiot. Exact words. And they ended up breeding because they were inbreeding so heavily. And again, this happens a lot when a breed gets super popular. They ended up nuts, like more nuts than average. So they're already an aggressive breed. And a lot of people do the whole, oh, it's cute. That was actually one breed that would chase me down as a kid in the neighborhood I lived in. But God, I hated that dog. So maybe my opinion is influenced that way. I'm not saying they're not right for everybody. I'm saying too many people get them thinking, oh, it's so cute and fluffy, and not know, yeah, you just got a fluffy like Cujo. Be aware. Be responsible. So anyway, I've never been a huge fan. And that coat, dear God, I do not want to take care of the coat on a chow. That's a lot of, and that's another thing that people need to realize. I'm going to go back over this with some blue. A lot of people need to realize the coat care. They get dogs not realizing how easily they mat and how much work it's going to be or how much money it's going to cost for you to have that dog go to a groomer as often as needed. And if you let your dog get matted, that's physically painful. It's constantly pulling on that area. That it's cruel. It really is cruel, and a lot of people don't realize that. And the problem with chows, because they are so aggressive towards strangers, when they go in to be groomed, a lot of them don't let someone groom them, and that is a nightmare. Like to have a dog that is known to be that aggressive, and that's what it was bred for. It's a guard dog. To have a dog that has that much aggression in it or like animosity towards strangers. I'm not saying some of them can be trained to do okay with the groomer, and if done right, I'm not saying that they're not right for everybody, but it's so common with people who don't know what they're getting themselves into, so they don't train it right. They don't, they just end up with this dog that can't go to the groomer without being sedated. So it ends up, it can be a nightmare. What was the other breed you asked about? Mastiff. Mastiffs are awesome. Mastiffs also do not live very long. So I know a lot of people who 5 years, 6 years average. And one person I knew of, she had Mastiffs, and she was one who was so scarred every time it would die, and you felt bad for her. She got to the point, like when one had to be taken to be put to sleep, she couldn't even drive that car ever again. And it's like, why do you, if you're that affected, and I get it, I would be that affected too, that's why I can't have them. But if you're that affected, then this is not a breed for you. Personality-wise, Mastiffs are, most of them, amazing, amazing dogs. So I get why someone would want them, but the drool factor is a bit much for me and my being neurotic with things being clean. But yeah, those would not be my choice of breeds for those reasons. Starving Artist Collective said, one of my biggest pet peeves is making up new breed names for what were in my day simply called mongrel. Seems like hipsters being pretentious idiots. My issue is that you have breeders who use those names and sell these mixed breeds for more than a show quality dog that was bred with health testing and bred for the right reasons, and is healthy and has all the good stuff. The mixed breeds they're using it as a marketing tool. It's kind of genius when you look at it from that aspect, but they use it as a marketing tool, and people are paying insane amount of money for a mixed breed, and that they sell them and tell people that they're going to be healthier because it's a mixed breed. Yeah, that's not how genetics work. If you have an unhealthy golden retriever and an unhealthy lab, which is the case in most cases who are breeding, because good breeders that have healthy dogs are not selling to breeders who are going to mix them. A good breeder will never do that. So if you're like, no, I know a breeder who's good and she's breeding doodle whatevers. No, she's not. I mean, she's breeding them, but she's not a good breeder. That is not a reputable breeder because she couldn't have gotten healthy dogs like good. And they'll do we had a vet check. That is not the same as health testing. I want to know what the hip testing, like what hip tests for hips, tests for a lot of different genetic stuff have to be done before. You don't realize that people who breed dogs for the right reasons are not making a good profit. They're barely breaking even. They're doing it for the love of the breed and to breed healthy dogs. Whereas the backyard breeders, the people breeding doodles, they're not doing the proper health testing. So they don't have much out of pocket other than food and I got a vet check, not the same as health testing. So we've got me starting on that. But people, they'll tell you that you're going to get a healthier dog because it's a mixed breed, not necessarily because if that lab was unhealthy and the golden retriever had bad hips, you're producing puppies that have those same health things. It doesn't matter that they were mixed. So people, there's a lot of misinformation out there. Sergio said, Cujo, are you into Stephen King as well? I do like Stephen King. I've not seen that movie in a very long time. I never read any of his books. I've only seen the movies though. So I guess it doesn't make me as big of a fan. I like happier stories myself. Let's see. Scrolling up. I pretty much got done today what I planned on. I just really wanted to focus this, and then next week we're going to do the feathers. I didn't want to try to do the whole thing and rush it because I knew this, to get the beak to be as like detailed as I wanted and the color shifts, I knew that would take longer. So we're separating this into 2 weeks. Rain Angel said, thanks, I once tried Mi-Teintes and I don't know if it's all the same, but yours looks different, maybe the screen. Well, it's a different paper. It's almost kind of grainy. Like you can see the fibers in this just because of the color. So it's like a darker gray and then a tan kind of mixed together. And then of course it's the smooth side versus the rough side, which would be, this one is a different color. I don't know if it'll show on camera. Let me see. Here's the rough side. You can see here how it's kind of, you can see the bumpiness, whereas this is very smooth because I'm using the back. Whereas if we flip that over, there's the smooth side. Let's see. Nick said, I was watching a dog show yesterday, appalled at how the German Shepherd breed dogs have destroyed the breed. They used to be robust, agile breed. Now they look like crippled and malformed. I want to grow. That would be one of my top breeds if it weren't for that. Now, one of the other breeds I am interested in is a Belgian Malinois because it's similar to a Shepherd without the hips. When I worked at the animal hospital, and this was 20 years ago, so it's going to be worse now. But when I worked at the animal hospital, every German Shepherd that came in had problems with the patella and problems with the hips within a year old, 2 years max. I mean, you shouldn't be having that. And we've bred them to the point, and then that is a complaint I will have with good, so-called good breeders. There are certain breeds that we've bred them too extreme, where it's no longer healthy. English Bulldogs, amazing, amazing dogs, but we bred that nose too flat. They can't even physically reproduce on their own. That has to be done by, like, people have to make them reproduce. They have to have a C-section. That shouldn't be. That's too extreme. So you do have, for sure, people who get into breeds who would be considered show breeders, so they should be good, right? Not all show breeders are good breeders, but all good breeders are show breeders, if that makes sense. So they don't, the German Shepherds, it sucks what people have done to their hips, going more and more extreme. And that can be blamed largely on shows. So while I'm all for shows, what happens on certain breeds, something that's a little bit more extreme, a judge who doesn't really know the breed standard will award it. And then everyone else tries to breed for that extreme that was getting awarded. So dog shows can have a negative thing. I don't want to make it sound like all dog shows, everything's good. There are breeds, like I said, German, that is a perfect example. Pekingese and certain breeds where the nose is so flat, the dog has to have surgery in order to breathe, and that's just the standard for that breed. That's not acceptable to me. Like, that's not okay. So yeah, with you on that one. See, I can manage to make everyone on every side of an argument, knocking pencils down, mad at me because I look at the pros and cons to everything. I don't think everything is always good, and I can basically piss off at everybody in an argument because I will take a little from every side. I think it means I'm sane, but whatever. Joanna said, not to brag, but I've trained large breeds for 22 years. I beg you, do some research, study the breed. Me personally or everybody? I mean, I do research and study for sure. Yes. I absolutely agree. And it's kind of like we were saying with birds. Different breeds have they were bred for something specific. And so you get a lot of people. There was one girl, I know a breeder of whippets, very responsible, very good breeder. She's also a photographer. She's amazing. But she got into it with somebody because this person had pit bulls. And she had complained that the pit bull she was having problems with the pit bull or whatever. And all she had said was in this group, I don't remember what brought it up, but she was like, yeah, whippets and pit bulls, they just have different personalities. It's a different dog. This girl flipped out on her and claimed she was being racist and she was going to let everyone know she was a racist piece of crap. And there were swear words. Racist? I don't think you know what that word means. Like, what? There is a difference between the personality type of a pit and the personality type of a whippet. You can't argue that. I'm not saying one's better than the other. There is a difference. But you get a lot of people who do that. Oh, it's just how you raise them. Yes, how you train the dog absolutely will impact everything. But so do the genetics. They were bred for a certain thing. So like Gibson gets outside or away. He gets outside and he gets spooked by something, which sighthounds get spooked easy, or if he sees something to chase, that dog is gone. It doesn't matter how much I've trained him to come, the recall. That can help when we hope for it, but the instinct kicks in. You can't untrain the instinct on a dog that is, such a high prey drive or such. So yeah, there is a hair in front of my eyes. I should have cleaned these glasses. It's not a hair. They're just very, very smudged. Sarah Makes Art said, my family's dog is a terrier and something else. We don't know what. She's so small. Most people think she's a puppy. Aw. Whoop, that just scrolled too far. Yeah, I'm done with this one for today. So we're just going to get caught up on the chat while we wrap it up because I got that done a little faster than I thought I was going to. And like I said, I'll probably come back through with a little bit of white highlights, but I'm going to wait until we get the feathers in next week. Where were we? Paul said, so Samoyed it is. Now, those are cool, but don't discount the care required in their coats. Oh my gosh, you're going to do a lot of brushing. Worth it, but a lot of brushing. So just be aware of that. It's not something where you're just like, oh, once a week I'll brush it out. No, you better do that every day. Sarah said, Yorkshires are quite docile, but personality-wise, they're busy and bossy and stubborn. Who needs an alarm when your dog wakes you up at 6? That's funny. Yeah, my dogs know because I don't want them and I used to do this when I had a cat too. I don't feed when I first wake up because what happens is the dog will start waking you up because it's like it's feeding time. Get up. So if you wanted to sleep in one day or whatever, the dog is like, my schedule says it's feeding time. Wake up now. So mine don't eat until about 2 to 3 hours after I wake up. So no one wakes me up for food purposes. Because my sleep is I am too stingy when it comes to my sleep. I am not letting them do that. Nikki Chickadee said, my cousin had a Mastiff. He was the sweetest dog ever. He let us crawl over him and tried to ride him, but he ended up getting cancer and had to be put down after a long time. Yeah, that's very common with the breed. Sarah Makes Art said, I read that Stephen King was so drunk when he was writing Cujo that he barely remembers writing it. Oh, wow. Starving Artist Collective said, saw an ad last week for one of the mixed breed designer dogs for $6,850. That's more than twice the cost of my car. Yeah, that sounds, it is crazy what people are paying to get a mixed breed. Like, just go to the Humane Society, or there's rescues out there that have, that's what my neighbors, theirs are from rescues. So they got their poodle mixes and didn't pay that. Let's see. George said, hi, I love your channel so much. Thank you for being such an inspiration. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here today. Fine Art Ann said, with some breeds, dog shows have started to turn the coat too long and fluffy, even though it's not good for the work that the breed is for. Oh, absolutely. Also, size might get larger or smaller. Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a downside to people breeding for a certain thing. Like, there's one breeder I know, and she teaches judges seminars, which drives me crazy for Italian Greyhounds. So Italian Greyhounds should have reach, but not, like, they should reach forward, but they're not supposed to have that high step that like a terrier would have. But she redid the logo and she does these seminars because this is how her dogs move. So she started teaching judges that they're supposed to damn near hit themselves in the face as they like prance. And it's cute. It's very prancy when an Italian Greyhound is throwing its paws up in the air. It's not correct. It's not correct for the movement, and it's wasted movement. So they're supposed to be able to run and run fast. That means reach forward, not throw your paws in the air. So you do get that a lot. There's definitely a downside to some of the stuff that goes on in dog shows as far as that goes, where people are like, we're going to push for this different thing, and it's not beneficial to the dog. Now, the high stepping in an Italian Greyhound isn't really going to hurt them physically. It's just that they're not performing, and it's an Italian Greyhound. People aren't hunting with them, but they're supposed to reach forward and run. That reach forward is very important with a sight hound for movement, so not smacking themselves in the face. So yeah, you do see that, and it's annoying. And this is somebody who's very well known, like very, very well known. And I've shown against her dog. Her dogs do not, I've never been in the ring with one of her dogs that moved nicely. Like, they crossed really bad in the rear and front. The hindquarters were dragged. Like, the movement on those dogs was terrible. Somebody told me they've seen some of hers that moved well. I've never seen it. So it was, and her dogs are all over the place. So it's like, that's kind of, but you're teaching the judges because you do the seminar, so you're teaching them that's correct, even though it's not. Yeah, that's frustrating. Sneak said, in my opinion, AKC is not the best place to research a breed. Oh, no, definitely not. My Pom has a high prey drive. She has never been off leash. Recall is not in her skill set. Yeah, I would say AKC is a place to get started to see, I guess, the look and what the intent of the dog was. But then you need to go from there and find actual breeders and actual people who are telling you the pros and cons. A good breeder is going to have couple tips. If you're looking for a dog, a good breeder, if they have a website, they're going to tell you why you don't want that dog. A good breeder should not be trying to tell you why you need this dog because it's the most perfect dog and you need to buy one. And here's where you enter your credit card. The breeder takes a credit card, or if there's a buy it now feature or anything like that on their website, run. That's a puppy miller. I mean, maybe a backyard breeder or a puppy miller. Those are your only options. No good breeder of any breed does that. Ever. Good breeders, and a lot of people don't, like my in-laws don't like this, and that they won't go through, they go through rescues, but they don't like the idea of somebody wanting to interview them, and it's my house, I should have to interview, and it's like, yeah, but it's their dog that they're being responsible for, and they want to make sure it's a right fit, because a dog ends up in the Humane Society when somebody who got them who didn't know it was the right fit for them, that breed wasn't a fit. So anyway, yeah, those are some. So a couple tips there. Joanna said, I love talking dogs with you. Girl, you know things, shine on. This is what I kind of grew up with. Dogs and birds were like that, and then working at the animal hospital, and I showed my Italian Greyhound. So I've been around, like, these are my peoples. Been around all of this a lot. Erica said, or even if you remember where you got the particular owl riff, what are you talking about? I think I didn't get the first part of your question. Scrolling up, do I see something from an Erica? I probably scrolled too far and missed the first part of that. I don't see anything. Let's see if I can figure it out from the last part. It's like a puzzle. Or even if you remember where you got the particular owl reference photo. I tried searching wildlife reference photo. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. And here's the thing. When it comes to those photos, especially wildlife reference photos, they don't have a way for me to, unless I saved the link at the time, I have to do the same thing you do and spend hours and hours. So if somebody's like, I need that actual link, but it was something I did years ago, I'm going to spend hours trying to find that on their website. So it's not something I'm probably going to do for you. I know that sounds mean. I don't have time. I just can't. It would be better for you to do that. And I try to keep track of it now, but some of the older stuff, if you're talking about an older video, I don't know where it is. I try to tell you in the video, especially with Patreon, where that photo, if it came from wildlife reference photos, I will always tell you that. I can't always find it. So, yeah, and I'm not sure the particular, because I think I'm missing half your question and I can't find that either. I can't find any of the things today, but I don't, I'm not sure. I'm sorry. George said, thank you. I love your channel so much. Thank you. Okay, I think I read that one. Thank you. I'll read it again because it was a nice comment. I'm all out of order now because of scrolling up. Fine Art Ann said, and sled races have started to turn Malamutes more husky-like, lighter and more sporty just to get them to run faster, even though these are more slow-paced runner with huge loads. Oh, see, I don't know a whole lot about those guys. I mean, I know they're bigger than Huskies, but that's not good. NH Chicky said, yeah, my pup was $1,600. Ouch. I paid less than that for my show quality Italian Greyhound. I mean, I'm just saying. Sarah Makes Art said, our dog is a rescue. I'm scrolling up. Beth said, and it's Chicky, I'm not saying your dog isn't worth $1,600. Yeah, I mean, I know you love her. But the reason that I get on that like tangent is people are convincing people to spend more than what a dog that went through health testing and went through, like, don't get me wrong. I think mixed breeds are great dogs. Like, I kind of want to steal Arlo, but after seeing what he did with that blue canister and being covered in the blue stuff from next door, that maybe less so, but I mean, their dogs are amazing. I love them. So I don't want to make it sound like I don't think mixed breeders are as amazing as a purebred. My problem is with the breeders themselves. That's where I have an issue. The breeders who are breeding mixes that probably shouldn't be mixed, like, let's breed a beagle that is prone to getting out of the yard and wandering with a pug who can't find his way to the back door. That is not a good combination. Like, this is not something that should go together, and they're ugly. Like, I'm not a fan. I don't think they're attractive. That is not a cute combination. But they're doing it for this designer feature, and they know people will pay it. I can't even imagine paying that much for a mixed breed. Those are free. Those are like $50 max. I have a problem with the breeders themselves are knowingly they lie to people. And I mean, yeah, it's our responsibility to research too. So we can always go back to that, but take responsibility for yourselves. But at the same time, they've got a racket going, making that much money off a mix. And one of the things that happens too, well, because it's trendy, but one of the things that happens too, like, I knew a lady she was a backyard breeder, and I didn't realize at the time how bad that was, but she couldn't get a papillon and could not get a good breeder to give her one. And she had to go through so many hoops to get one because everyone knew she was a backyard breeder. They didn't want her breeding their dogs. So you get someone like that who's like, well, I got one papillon, I'll just mix it to a palm. This will be a cute mixed breed, and then I'll sell it as a designer. You get stuff like that where you're just like, you're not doing any health testing either. no one who's doing mixed breeds like that does the proper health testing. So and then on top of that, charge $1,600. That is pure profit. They have very little money in doing the proper. It drives me crazy for the breeders on the breeder side of it. Beth Mark said, I once looked after an Italian Greyhound. She was the sweetest girl and so gentle and good with the little ones. I was devastated when she had to go home and the family moved away. Oh, they are such sweet dogs. They're funny dogs. Alexandra Stewart said, I have 2 Labradors. They are brilliant dogs, but the coat is hard work. Labradors? Grooming and clearing. Oh, yeah, the shedding. And they are very chewy dogs. Oh, yes. My 2-year-old is naughty, randomly chewing stuff. And that's the problem. The lab poodle next door, it's that lab and that dog that has him. He is so destructive. He's such a cool dog. And the labs really are. If you can make it to 2, they'll usually start calming down a bit. But those first 2 years especially are extra rough with the destructive nature. Such neat dogs, but yeah. Paul said, I just contacted someone and they said it's legal to own a Bobcat with certification. But here's the thing. Why? Why would you want to? Because it's unique and rare. They're not a suitable pet for most people. So it's interesting that you looked that up. Thanks for finding that information for us. But it's kind of like cheetahs, I know, are supposed to make good pets. So, okay, fine there. But then you get a lot of people who are a lot of rich people who get random big cats. And it's when they're younger, they do fine. And then as adults, they end up in some crap version of a sanctuary, which is not suitable in many cases. Some of them are, but some of them, very many of them are not. And it's I don't know. I just question why somebody thinks, they're cool looking. I get that, but they're not intended to live inside somebody's house. They don't, I guess that seems a little bit hypocritical because I have birds, but we can raise them in that environment and birds do really well. Whereas a bobcat, it's they're going to have permanently certain instincts that most people are not a fit for. Nick said, personal aesthetics become more important than the intended breed standard. Yeah, and I don't like that. I want them to I want to know the personality type of the dog I'm getting. And so that's one of the reasons I prefer myself, purebred. I have a better idea of getting a fit, a personality fit that's going to fit with me in my life. And I think part of that is I'm just neurotic and I have I want my perfect, everything has to be perfect and I want a certain personality type and I want a certain, so it works for me. Whisker said, when you used to use Fabriano Artistico hot press watercolor paper, which side did you prefer, front or back? Honestly, whichever side I grabbed, I didn't really have a preference. I usually would go with the front just because it was supposed to be the front, but I didn't have, I've worked on both sides. Whichever side I landed on, it was fine. The first time I realized I was using the back, I was oh no, it's almost the same. It's fine. Sneak said, Fox is a rescue. We found her in the middle of the highway, playing in traffic, never found her owner. She was only about 10 weeks old. Aw. Joanna said, exactly, good breeders will never need to sell you. You need to prove to them you are worthy of the puppy. Yep. I'll get through the last of these questions, wrap this up. Let's see. NH Chicky said, that's not mean, hun. I don't apologize for saying so. Okay, good. I don't want to insult anyone's dogs because I've had mixed breeds. I had a shepherd mix. I loved him. He was awesome. So sometimes I know I can come across as sounding very uppity, I only like purebred dog. No, that's not true. I just, Erica said, I was asking for permission to practice with one of your older videos, the snow owl. Oh, okay, the snow owl. That one, the photographer was it Radam something? You can copy my work exactly. And he's given everyone who's asked permission to draw it. But you technically should contact, especially if you're going to sell or make prints, you need to contact the photographer. And if you look at the original video, look it up on YouTube, I tell you who the photographer is there. So that will give you the information there. But you are welcome to copy it for your own practice for sure. Cletus is chirping. Sarah Makes Art said, so do good breeders take cash only? No, they can take credit card. Well, some can take check. Check is more common. They might do credit card, but it's not because they're set up to take credit card off their website. If their website is pay now, that is a puppy mill or backyard breeder. Nearly the same thing. Not, some exceptions. But yeah, no, cash and check is the normal way to go. But some breeders will do Zelle or they'll do whatever. But you go through a whole interview process. It's not just go and buy a puppy off the internet. NH Chicky said, he was expensive AF. I got him because of a lifelong desire to have the same type of dog as Lady and the Tramp, and I only came across a local breeder. Yes, there are bad combos. How cute, though. Well, I'm glad you got a good one. Gail said, I have mini schnauzers. Their breeder has extensive website for info, interviews you for it. Minis are a combo of loving and naughty, just like my kids were when they were little. Yeah, that sounds like how the breeder should do. Where were we? NH Chicky said, in my opinion, no wildlife should be pets. There is one exception, however. They are not in this case considered pets as a rescue. However, groups and entities can become corruptive. So the thing is, though, every animal is, at some point would be considered, besides a cat and a dog and a horse. I mean, you have the domesticated. Like frogs, that's wildlife. Birds, wildlife. We did not domesticate. Well, chickens are domesticated, but I mean, for the most part, they're not domesticated. They are wildlife. So I think that there are certain animals that can be a fit, and we can do good for them as far as the conservation, like red-eyed tree frogs, breeding dart frogs, breeding these frogs who are getting, red-eyed tree frogs are not considered endangered right now, but I mean, certain breeds of types of frogs are in the wild because of bacteria. The bacteria is the big one. Oh, it starts with a C, I think, but it's swept through and wiped out, just decimated populations. And because you have people who have them, but they're not pets so much. Like, I don't look at my frogs so much as pets as I created an environment as natural as possible for them, and then I get to enjoy them in their natural environment that's in my house. But I'm not like holding and playing with them. I don't think you should do that with frogs. So I guess, I don't know. Sarah Makesart said, I saw a documentary on people keeping tigers as pets, and it negatively affected the health of the tigers. Yeah, and like white tigers. So if you don't know this, white tigers do not exist in the wild. This is not a rare breed or rare or unique. It's inbred. They inbreed the crap out of them to get that coloration. All white tigers are cross-eyed. If you have an orange tiger in a litter of white tigers, the orange tiger is also cross-eyed. These should not be in our gene pools for tigers. We should be breeding the strongest, the healthiest. It's not like a dog that you can easily find a home for it when it doesn't work out or somebody can't keep them anymore. You can't, not that I love that people do that, but you know, it's a tiger. Where is it going to go when it's no longer fun for you? Yes, I have huge issues with that whole industry. Huge issues. Like, that's why you will never see me paint or draw a white tiger. I won't do it. And I've gotten, there's a white tiger. I'm guessing was a rescue at the Fort Worth Zoo. I've gotten good photos of him. I don't use them in my reference photos, even for you guys, because it's like, I'm so against, I don't want to do anything that promotes them. And people misunderstand and they think that it's just a unique breed, like a snow leopard. It's just a white tiger, like snow tiger or some crap. It's not. It's inbreed to like crazy extents. I mean, like, okay, my clownfish, no, you can see them. These are, let's scoot them over. This type of clownfish are inbred to get this coloration. However, you don't end up with a bunch of unwanted clownfish. It's a fish. It's easy enough for people to keep them in. Here, we'll scooch them. These are both Ocellaris and a percolate clownfish. They are both in the wild, your normal stripe, orange and black normal pattern. To get this coloration, they inbreed them, and they do selective breeding. Like, oh, this one slightly has different markings. Let's breed him back to a sibling or a parent, or what, that's how they get these different things. I'm okay with that, because even if you have a fish who is not like the best for the gene pool, we still have, like, it's going to go in someone's home aquarium and probably not be bred. Even if it is, it's not the same as a tiger where they are endangered, where they can't, where do they go when we overbreed so that you can have petting zoos where people go pet and cuddle with a white tiger? What happens to them? Where do they go now? These guys are in my tank. They're perfectly happy. Like, they can go in they're this big. Whereas a tiger, they're a lot big. I have issues with that sort of thing. And it really does affect the health of the tigers. In this case, they're all the white ones, they're all cross-eyed. And they have a lot of health problems. Paul said, wait, what? White tigers aren't supposed to exist? Nope, they are not. So yeah. And on that note, I will leave you for the day. I think we're all caught up on the questions and such. Yeah, Joey said, little dogs can be far more of a handful than big dogs. I learned that from the experience. So yeah, I found the same. I find that my big guys are much less, like, I don't have to watch them as closely. Like, I don't really have, I've had a couple of accidents in the house. Not much. Not like the little ones. The little ones are like, I'll go here. Whereas the boys are more like, I've asked to go out and you didn't notice, and I don't know what to do at this point. I'm going to have to go here. So, it's not and they only have to go outside. They normally, they go out as often as they want, but they'll only have to pee like 3 times a day. The little ones, every 2 hours. And even then, they'd still go on the floor. Such brats. Sarah Makes Art said a white tiger wouldn't survive in the wild even if they were born there because they would have no camouflage. I don't know a whole lot about that. They might, because they're kind of at the top of the food chain, so humans would be the ones that would come after them. So they might survive in the wild. I don't know. Joanna said, my husband and I worked with wild cats. People buy them, then one day they eat the couch. Next day they eat your children. Stop buying cats. Yup. Yep. That is that shouldn't happen. And Shiki said, blah, I never liked petting zoo. Never seen a good one. We have one, and it's considered a petting zoo in my, like, local to me. And parts of it are awesome. Like where they keep their camels, it's huge. Those areas are really neat. But then they have another area where they have, I forget what kind of a bear they have. They had, I think there were some lemurs. There was a collection, and they were in, like, their enclosure was just fencing, like normal wire chain link fences. And they had a lot of stuff to climb on. And I mean, there were aspects about it where they were keeping the animals stimulated. So I will give them that. But I prefer when zoos they set it up to be as natural of an environment for if you're dealing with wild animals. I like that better. And you see that with like Fort Worth Zoo, whereas this petting zoo that I'm talking about, well, you're not petting those bears, but they have them to visit. I did not like the way they were set up for those. The camels, they had some deer, they had some different animals like that. They were out in this huge field. You go out on like this tram, they drive you through where they are. Those there, that is dreamland. If I was a deer, I would much rather live on their property than out in the wild where I'm being hunted. So, I mean, they have a good part of it I really liked. I didn't like how they had the more exotic stuff. I would rather them just not have those animals. But I do think that I prefer when proper zoos set up as natural of a habitat as possible. And then it makes you wonder, like, if you guys didn't put in the effort to set this up, like, I don't know what kind of I don't know. Maybe I'm making assumptions on, like, maybe they're not treated as well medically. I have no idea. I don't know what their vet staff is, whereas I know, like, the Fort Worth Zoo has a full vet staff. So anyway, that is it. It is 3:15. It's dark. Are we having storms today? I don't know. I will see you guys on Wednesday. I don't know what we're doing Wednesday yet. Wait, do I know? I don't know. I have no idea what we're doing Wednesday. Maybe I'll try to come up with something Christmassy. Get us all in the Christmas spirit since everyone pretty much decorated early. So I will see you guys Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. I think that's it. Oh, check out our moderators channels. Nick and Joseph both have channels here on YouTube. Links are in the video description, and thank them. They help us so much by keeping stuff out of chat that no one wants to see. So, or in spam and such. So anyway, I will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye.